In 1987, Liu Shiguang died while working away from home. They never even found his body. All I got was a message passed along, telling me I was free. The Liu family said I was bad luck. They broke my leg and threw me out with nothing, not wanting to tarnish my own family's name, and needing to find Liu Shiguang's body for my own peace of mind. I left alone to work and search for him. Later, I saw Liu Shiguang living with another woman. Their child was already calling them Mama and Papa. That's when I realized he had faked his death to leave me. I rushed out, intent on killing that couple. The next moment, my legs too slow to get out of the way, I was hit and killed by a truck. When I opened my eyes again, I was back at the moment the news of Liu Shiguang's death was delivered. I clenched my fists. In this life, I'll make every last one of you weep. What happened to my son? Explain yourself clearly, the old woman shouted at the top of her lungs. Making sure everyone in the courtyard could hear, a crowd gathered around to watch the commotion. Auntie Liu, I really don't know what happened to Shiguang. All I know is he's dead, and they haven't even found his body. I was packing his things and found a letter in his bundle. I'm just here to deliver it for him. That's all I know. Ma Shangjin, who had worked with Liu Shiguang, shoved the letter into my hands and ran off as soon as he finished speaking. He was clearly afraid I'd grab him and start grilling him for details. I knew Ma Shangjin was just a hired messenger, paid off by Liu Shiguang. He was no professional actor, and he was butchering the Liu family's little performance of burning bridges. If you want to see a real performance, you have to look to my in-laws. Sure enough, my mother-in-law began wailing hysterically. Oh heavens, this is a disaster. My son, my light. He's my only boy. What am I supposed to do without my son? Dear heavens above, open your eyes and see this injustice. Why is it that those who deserve to die live on, while my precious boy is taken from me? Wah, my mother-in-law wailed, dropping to the floor with a thud, beating her chest and feet in a fit of hysterical despair. Even through her tears, she shot me a sideways glare, making it perfectly clear who she thought was the one to blame. It was the same in my past life. The day we received the news of Liu Shiguang's death, my father-in-law and mother-in-law fainted from weeping multiple times. No one could console them, and at the time, I truly believed their grief was genuine. Liu Shiguang had 3 older sisters, making him the only son in the family. Losing him was like the sky falling in for the old couple. So when they cursed me, calling me a jinx who brought death to their only son, I endured it. When my mother-in-law beat my legs with a shovel and told me to die, I endured that too. Because I know exactly how it feels to lose a loved one. They lost a son, and I lost a good man who never held my infertility against me. Just like them, I lost the person I was counting on for the rest of my life. They forced me to divorce Liu Shiguang, drove me out of the Liu family home. With my lame leg, I dragged myself to find work and search for his body. Once I find Liu Shiguang's body, I can die with a clear conscience. I'll be free and clear, owing nothing to the Liu family. But when I finally died, I realized the truth. The Liu family had been scheming against me from the very beginning, all because Liu Shiguang had found another woman and had a child with her. After all the years I toiled for their family, they needed an excuse to throw out a barren woman like me. All of this was their family's scheme to leave me with nothing but the clothes on my back. At this moment, I realized I had to fight fire with fire. The crowd of onlookers was growing. My mother-in-law was waiting for this moment, and so was I. Before my mother-in-law could even start berating me, I plopped down on the ground and began wailing. Oh, my life is so wretched. My husband is just gone. I don't even have a child to show for it. The fortune teller said he was bad luck for me, and I didn't believe it back then. I married him because he said he'd treat me well. Turns out the fortune teller was spot on. He was my curse, leaving me with no one to depend on. He was always saying he'd go out to work and earn money for me, to support his parents, but he never brought back a single penny all year. Instead, I had to work and give him money. Fine, I'd give him the money, as long as he was safe and sound. But then the man just vanished into thin air. No sign of him alive, no body to bury. What kind of fate is this? Oh, heaven above, you are so unjust. The wicked, the liars, the ones who deserve to die live on, while the one who shouldn't have died. How could he be gone? I wept my heart out, spilling all of Liu Shiguang's dirty laundry from over the years. If I hadn't spoken up, everyone would still be fooled by the old woman's fabricated image of him as a filial son and a good provider. I also turned the tables on my mother-in-law's attempt to slander me as a jinx who brought misfortune to Liu Shiguang, and I cursed him with every ounce of sincerity in my heart. Liu Shiguang deserved to die, but he lived, in my past life. I was a good person, yet I died. Thank heavens, I've been given a second chance at life. I absolutely must make the most of this opportunity. The onlookers immediately started whispering and pointing. I always said, with so many people going out to work, how come only Shurguang seemed to make money? Turns out he didn't earn a penny either. His wife has been supporting him all along. You said it, Shurguang's wife is so frugal. She wouldn't even spend a dime on a scrap of cloth for herself. What a devoted daughter-in-law. It's just her rotten luck, I tell you. If you ask me, the Liu family was never meant to have a son. Remember, the old couple had 4 daughters, kept 3, gave 1 away, and only after donating to the Guanyin temple did they finally have Shurguang. Of course I remember. No wonder the fortune teller said the Liu family's daughter-in-law was destined for hardship. It's true. The mother-in-law was furious. She scrambled up from the ground and yelled at the gossips, "Shut your mouths. What do you know? It was Su Yeshu who jinxed my son to death. She's the one who brought the bad luck. My son was perfectly fine. Su Yeshu, you jinx, you killed my son and now you're spreading lies. I'll beat you to death." As she ranted, her eyes darted around. The father-in-law handed her a nearby shovel. She grabbed it and charged straight at me. I remember this shovel. In my past life, it was this very shovel that broke my leg, leaving me to suffer endless pain with every wind and rain. I shouted to the crowd, "Murder, murder. The Liu family is trying to silence me for good." I raised my voice deliberately, all because I saw the neighbor's car pull up to the gate. That car belonged to a relative of the old lady next door, a military officer with some clout. Today, I'm going to use this officer to get what's owed to me. After shouting, I wasn't about to let my mother-in-law actually hit me, so I ran, dodging several swings of her shovel. My mother-in-law was so furious she could barely stand straight. Pointing at me, she shrieked, "How dare you run? You jinxed my son to death. And you're nothing but a barren hen. What use does our Liu family have for you? I'll beat you to death today to bury you with my son." She was bellowing with rage, her words dripping with venom. She wasn't grieving over her son's death. All she cared about was making sure I was buried with him. The onlookers chimed in, trying to calm her. "Oh, Mrs. Liu, why are you hitting her? Shurguang is already gone. You still need your daughter-in-law to look after you in your old age." Exactly, exactly. The dead can't come back to life, but the living must go on living. You've got to let it go. What's meant to be will be. Don't force what isn't meant to be. Shut your mouths, all of you. What business is it of yours, standing there spouting off? You all still have your sons, don't you? Think your sons will never die? You'd be happy if they did, wouldn't you? That comment from the mother-in-law really stirred up a hornet's nest. Nobody wants to hear such ill-omened talk. Several aunties and elder women immediately surrounded the mother-in-law, arguing, "Mrs. Liu, watch your tongue. Your son probably died because you're always out there bad-mouthing people. That's right, you sold off 4 daughters just to spend money on your son, and you still couldn't keep him. Who knows if it's because you piled up too much bad karma." The mother-in-law stood with her hands on her hips, taking them all on, and retorted, "That's nonsense. When did I ever sell my daughters?" She was like a vicious cat whose tail had been stepped on. "Of course there is. Ask anyone here. Didn't the Liu family give 1 daughter away? They took 3,200 in nutrition fees. And what's the difference with the other 3 daughters? They were practically sold, 200 in bride price for each, and not a single cent was allowed to go with them. When it was time for farm work, harvesting wheat or husking corn, they'd call the daughters and sons-in-law to come help, and wouldn't even feed them. The grandsons ate chaff while their own sons ate grain. Do they think everyone is blind to what they've done?" The mother-in-law's face flushed crimson, and she spat out through gritted teeth, "You're slandering us." Outnumbered and out-argued, the mother-in-law was gradually losing ground and had no chance to come after me. I seized the chance to run out and intercepted the man who had just stepped out of the car. "Comrade, my mother-in-law is trying to kill me. Please, help me. Call the police." Zhang Zeki glanced at his guard beside him. The uniformed guard immediately stepped forward and shouted, "Quiet, everyone. If anyone has a grievance, you can speak to our division commander Zhang. He will see that justice is done." Upon hearing this, the crowd immediately fell silent. All eyes were on Zhang Zeki and me, standing right beside him. Seizing the moment, I asked him, "Comrade division commander, can you truly serve the people?" Zhang Zeki shot me a glance, his eyes sharp and penetrating, as if they could see right through my soul. It was a gaze unlike any I had seen from a man before, carrying a faint, chilling aura of violence that made my scalp tingle for a moment. "You heard my guard say I'm a division commander. If you have a grievance, I can speak to your bureau chief on your behalf." My spirits immediately lifted when I heard that. There was no way my mother-in-law and father-in-law would let me speak. they rushed over. My father-in-law stepped forward and said to Zhang Zeki with a smile, "Well, if it isn't Division Commander Zhang, it's been a long time since you've come back to visit your aunt, not since your wife passed. What brings you here today?" Zhang Zeki's marriage was arranged by that cousin of hers. When I married into this family, I heard his wife had already passed away, and he hadn't been back for years. It just so happened that he returned on this very day in my past life. Which is why I decided to take advantage of the situation, my father-in-law said, pulling a cigarette case from his pocket to offer Zhang Zeki a smoke. Zhang Zeki, however, raised a hand to decline. He wasn't smiling and looked rather serious as he said, "Uncle Lu, I'll pass on the cigarette. We have rules. We don't take so much as a needle or thread from the people. You wouldn't want me to break the rules, would you?" The words were calm yet devastating. My father-in-law immediately put away his cigarette case, waving his hand with an awkward smile. "Oh, no, Division Commander Zhang, please excuse our poor hospitality. We have a private family matter today, so we won't keep you for tea. You'd better hurry over to your aunt's place." Zhang Zeki glanced at me, noticing my hesitation, and said, "I'm in no rush, since my aunt isn't home anyway. Let me help settle this dispute. Guards, go and fetch the chief of the local police station." "Yes, sir," the guard replied, then drove off. My mother-in-law grew fearful and reached out to tug at my father-in-law's sleeve. He shook her off, turning to Zhang Zeki with a forced smile. "We couldn't possibly trouble you with our trivial matters. You must have important business to attend to, having come all this way. Please don't pay any mind to my daughter-in-law's nonsense." I stepped forward, planting my hands on my hips. "No." Commander Zhang said he would see justice done. "This is the perfect chance to tell him everything. Father, haven't we been unable to find Shiguang's body? If a soul can't be laid to rest properly, it's doomed to become a vengeful spirit. We must beg Commander Zhang to help us recover Shiguang's remains." My mother-in-law shot me a venomous glare, her words gritted between her teeth. "Our family troubles are beneath the notice of a man like the commander. Get home with me this instant, or you'll regret it." Ignoring my mother-in-law, I looked directly at Zhang Zeki. "Commander Zhang, you are a soldier of the people. You will uphold justice for us, won't you? All we seek today is fairness. If Shiguang cannot find peace in death, his eyes will never close in rest." The in-laws still insisted that Zhang Zeki should not get involved in the Lu family's affairs. "Commander Zhang is a busy man. Don't you go making a scene." Zhang Zeki replied with a wry smile. "I'm not busy today, since she said I'm a soldier of the people. How could I ignore a fellow villager's troubles? My aunt lives in this area, and with something like this happening, she must be terribly upset. Don't worry, Uncle Lu, I'll help you get justice for Shiguang." The in-laws, the two of them looked as if they'd just swallowed a rat, and inwardly, I felt a secret thrill, seeing that Zhang Zeki was willing to intervene. The onlookers privately assumed he was just after a good reputation. They chimed in, "What a kind heart Commander Zhang has, going out of his way to stand up for your Lu family. Shouldn't you thank him?" "Exactly, General Zhang is a truly upright official. You're so fortunate to have him return just now. Hurry up and thank General Zhang," the old man said stiffly. Thank you, General Zhang. Don't mention it, it's my duty." The old couple, I ushered Zhang Zeki into the house, and a crowd immediately gathered outside the door. Impossible to shoo away, I took out the letter and handed it to Zhang Zeki, saying, "Division Commander Zhang, this is Lu Shiguang's letter. Ma Shangjin said it was a final testament. I don't really understand it myself. Could you please take a look?" My in-laws turned pale with fright. They wanted to snatch the letter back but didn't dare, so they could only glare at me. I said with great grievance, "Mom, Dad, why are you glaring at me? I'm only trying to get justice for Shiguang. If we don't let Division Commander Zhang see it, when will we ever find his body and give him a proper burial?" My mother-in-law finally couldn't take it anymore and hissed under her breath, "You just want Shiguang dead, don't you?" I put on my most innocent face. "Mom, you're overthinking it. Shiguang is my husband. He never even held it against me that I can't have children. So why on earth would I want him dead? Besides, isn't he already dead?" "How can you say I want him dead, Mom? That's slander. That's twisting the knife." "Mother-in-law," Zhang Zeki glanced at me, a flicker of amusement in his eyes. "Me, what's so funny about that? Did he see through my act? No way, right? Of course, right now, I genuinely want Lu Shiguang dead, to avenge my murder in my past life. You. My mother-in-law raised her hand to strike me, but Zhang Zeki slammed his palm on the table. She flinched, her hand jerking back as she swiftly retreated to the side. The room fell so silent you could have heard a pin drop. My father-in-law reluctantly sat down and had my mother-in-law pour tea for them. General Zhang, you've read the letter. What did Shiguang say? Zhang Zeki said with a strange expression. You all read the letter first. We'll talk after you've finished. The letter was handed to me. I only gave it a cursory glance, clenched my jaw hard, and suppressed the hatred in my eyes. In my previous life, I held on to this letter for years. I read it every single day, to the point where I could recite it by heart, without missing a single punctuation mark. I kept wondering why Lu Shiguang wrote that letter. Did he have some premonition of his own death? Was he afraid his parents would make my life miserable after he was gone, so he left a posthumous letter to divorce me? It wasn't until I saw him with his mistress that I finally understood. Lu Shiguang's heart had already changed long ago. All his kindness towards me was just a means to use me. He wasn't afraid of his parents giving me a hard time at all. He just wanted a free ride in a marriage. It was obvious his parents already knew the contents of the letter. They read it through with complete composure. The mother-in-law studied the letter, working herself up into a state. Finally, she managed to squeeze out a few tears. Oh, that damned misfortune, she wailed. Shiguang was a boy born under an unlucky star. His father and I had no connections to speak of, so he had to go out into the world and make his own way. Commander Zhang, what's the point of a man's life, if not to have an heir? But Su Yesha can't bear children. Shiguang's heart was bitter, so he had to go out to find some solace. I reckon that's what led to the accident. He must have been full of resentment when he wrote this letter before he died. I'm begging you today, Commander, to grant a divorce between Shiguang and Su Yeshu. Her words played right into my hands. Zhang Zeki looked at me and asked, Comrade Su, what are your thoughts on this? I bit my lip, my eyes reddening. Commander Zhang, I said, Shiguang was very good to me while he was alive. I vowed to be faithful to him for the rest of my days. Now he's died under mysterious circumstances. And someone thinks they can just dismiss me with a letter. What if this is a scheme by the real culprit? How could I ever accept that? It belittles my feelings for Shiguang. A divorce is possible, but only after I have seen Shiguang's body with my own eyes. I must fulfill my duty as his widow by observing the full 3-year mourning period at his graveside before any divorce can take place. That is, of course, contingent on them finding Lu Shiguang's body. My in-laws panicked. They, of course, never found Lu Shiguang's body. Before Zhang Zeki got involved, they could have just pulled some strings to get me a divorce from Lu Shiguang without a death certificate. As it stands, without a death certificate to prove he's dead, I won't agree to a divorce. That means I still have a rightful share in everything in this house. I'm going to make Lu Shiguang's life, and his death, a living hell. My in-laws wanted to speak up, but they didn't dare. They could only look at Zhang Zeki, hoping he would find my demand too troublesome and refuse it. Someone in the crowd remarked, the Lu family's daughter-in-law is capable and has a good heart. What a shame she ended up with a husband who died so young. But she's truly loyal. Even though Shiguang is gone, she insists on observing the 3-year mourning period. Commander Zhang must help find Shiguang's body, or it would be a real disgrace. Exactly. What's the big deal about not having children? If anyone ends up with the Lu family's daughter-in-law, it's practically like gaining an extra daughter, isn't it? The in-laws' expressions grew increasingly grim, until the police chief arrived. He shook Zhang Zeki's hand warmly. Ah, Division Commander Zhang, what a pleasure to finally meet you. I've long heard that a distinguished figure has emerged in our area and have been meaning to pay you a visit, but the opportunity never quite presented itself. The chief certainly knew how to seize an opportunity. It's a shame, but I won't be handing this opportunity over to him. Commissioner Song, General Zhang is sitting here because he wants to see justice done for me, but I also know this matter has little to do with the general himself. I beg you, Commissioner, to see that justice is served for my Shiguang, my poor Shiguang, gone without a trace, not even a body to bury. How can I possibly eat or sleep? My crying made it impossible for the commissioner to continue his pleasantries. A flicker of interest passed through Zhang Zeki's eyes. The bureau chief looked embarrassed, shot a fierce glare at the in-laws, and said coldly, well, out with it. What's really going on here? The mother-in-law, still trying to lie, blurted out, this letter was brought back by Ma Shangjin. It says Shiguang died out there. It was Shiguang's final wish, and his father and I just wanted to fulfill it for him, to have Shiguang divorce Su Yeshu. That woman is a jinx. Our Lu family wants nothing to do with her. I cried out, Mom, how can you say such a heartless thing? How I've treated you, Dad, and Shiguang, everyone with eyes can see it. I'm starting to think you just want me to divorce Shiguang so he can find someone who can bear children. But you're not even willing to give me any compensation, you. What nonsense are you spouting? My father-in-law cut me off sharply. Undeterred, I pressed on. Unless I see Lu Shiguang's body with my own eyes, then he's just hiding from me, trying to divorce me and leave me with nothing. Mom, Dad, is Shiguang really dead? Are you sure? My in-laws exchanged a glance, both growing flustered. They thought I had caught on to something. What kind of parent would curse their own son? Shiguang died because of you. Our family wants nothing to do with you anymore. Pack your things and get out. My mother-in-law spoke and then moved to push me. Zhang Zeki suddenly stood up and pulled me aside, saying coldly to my mother-in-law, "Auntie, you're being too hasty. Jumping to conclusions before the facts are clear isn't the party's way of doing things. The party has always demanded that we act based on evidence. I don't think Comrade Su's request is unreasonable." That left my in-laws speechless, only able to seethe and gasp for air. I felt a bit better and was deeply grateful to Zhang Zeki for standing up for me. The bureau chief had someone fetch Ma Shangjin for questioning. Despite his name meaning advancement, he was actually a spineless and unambitious man. Before he was brought in, Zhang Zeki's bodyguard had already given him a verbal warning. As soon as he was brought forward, Ma Shangjin came clean. "I don't know anything. It was Shiguang. He gave me $20 to deliver a letter saying he was dead. If you have a problem, go ask Shiguang." His parents-in-law immediately interjected, "Shangjin, you mustn't talk nonsense." Fearing he'd be locked up, Ma Shangjin immediately swore, "If I'm lying, may I be struck by a car the moment I step outside the crowd. You hardly ever see a car around here. This guy even picks the safest possible thing to swear by." Now it was my turn to perform. My tears fell like raindrops. "Mom, Dad, did you know Lu Shiguang isn't dead? Is it because you look down on me for being infertile, and you want me to divorce him, but you won't give me anything? So you're pulling this stunt to make me leave with nothing?" My in-laws ignored me. Zhang Zeki said calmly, "This matter is too strange. Faking one's death is a serious allegation. Director Song, we need to get to the bottom of it, otherwise it's difficult to report. After all, every position needs to be filled. There's a stable job waiting for me out of town. We can't have a dead man occupying the position. Zhang Zeki is threatening us." My father-in-law finally lost his composure and blurted out, "Our family looks down on Su Yeshu because she can't bear children. Our family line must not end with Shiguang's generation. Su Yeshu, let me be perfectly clear with you. You must divorce Shiguang. You can't hold him back from having children with another woman." I feigned agony and clutched my chest. "So, Shiguang has someone on the side. I wondered why he never comes home, never sends money, and even expects me to foot the bills, and you all never said a word against it. So the plan was for me to wait on you hand and foot while that scoundrel Lu Shiguang uses my money to support his mistress and their child." Director Song, Division Commander Zhang, how can the Lu family bully a defenseless woman like me like this? I might as well be dead." As I spoke, I made a move to dash my head against the wall. Zhang Zeki grabbed my arm. I struggled a few times, but couldn't break free. The man was surprisingly strong. I shot him a look, wanting to continue my act of banging my head against the wall. Calmly, he pulled a handkerchief from his pocket and pressed it into my hand. "Dry your tears. Director Song and I are here, and we will get to the bottom of this. Uncle Lu, tell us exactly what happened." Zhang Zeki spoke up. "This matter has to be brought to a conclusion." Director Song also applied pressure, saying, "Old Lu, some things just shouldn't be done. Once you do them, they leave a trace. If you still want what's best for Shiguang, you should tell the truth. Even if you're getting a divorce, you shouldn't lie to people." That single act of deception defined the whole affair. The in-laws' eyes widened in shock. They just wanted me to leave with nothing, but they never intended to cause Lu Shiguang any trouble. The in-laws were left speechless. While the gathered neighbors feasted on the juicy gossip, it was a sham after all. I always said Shiguang was perfectly healthy, so how could he have just died? Exactly, the Lu family is truly heartless. It's not that Su Yesha didn't want to have a child. These health matters are never clear-cut. Even if they wanted a divorce, they should have been upfront about it and left her a way out. Pulling a stunt like this is just driving someone to their death. You can say that again. The Lu family has no decency, and to think I actually believed their lies. They talk like decent folk, but their actions are downright despicable. Pa. Director Song cleared his throat and said, "Quiet, please, settle down." The crowd fell silent. The old couple's eyes grew red. The father-in-law could only say, "Su Yesha's inability to have children is a fatal flaw. There's no denying that, even if my son sought out other women. It's because Su Yesha couldn't keep him. She lacks the capability. Since the two of them are incompatible, a divorce is only natural. What do you think, Director Song?" He didn't dare ask Zhang Zeki, he only dared to ask Director Song, figuring the director wouldn't want this to blow up either. After all, if word got out that such an outrageous thing happened under his jurisdiction, it would reflect poorly on him. Sure enough, Director Song hesitated. Zhang Zeki was still beside me. I took his handkerchief and gave my nose a good loud blow. Zhang Zeki's eye twitched. Director Song, the Liu family is trying to drive me to my grave. They've ruined my reputation and won't give me a single thing in return. Even in ancient times, a woman could take back her dowry after a divorce. Besides, the fault lies entirely with the Liu family. If it weren't for General Zhang today, I would have been wronged to death. General Zhang, Director Song, you must see that justice is done for me. I won't let Director Song brush me off so easily, and the Liu family won't get off scot-free either. My in-laws pointed at me and shouted, Su Yeshu, you barren woman, any decent person in your position would have killed themselves long ago. Our Shiguang is the only son in our family, how could we possibly keep a wife who can't bear children? You will leave this family today, whether you agree to the divorce or not, and as for the dowry, once it crosses the threshold of the husband's house, it's unheard of to take it back. Only out of respect for General Zhang and Director Liu are we letting you pack a few clothes before you go. Listen to that condescending tone, anyone would think my few rags were worth a fortune. I said coldly, no deal, if we're splitting up, we settle the accounts first. I won't agree to the divorce until I get every last cent that's owed to me, otherwise, I'll report Liu Shiguang for bigamy. You, shut your mouth. My mother-in-law was startled and looked anxiously at Director Song and Zhang Zeki. Zhang Zeki gave an inscrutable smile. Director Song looked over, offered Zhang Zeki a cigarette. Zhang didn't refuse, taking it and rolling it between his index and middle fingers. This made Director Song think there was still room for negotiation. He immediately smiled and gestured for the Liu family to keep calm, but who could have guessed? Zhang Zeki's next words were, Director Song, this is quite a place you have here. Even the cigarettes smell better than the ones at division headquarters. Director Song's heart skipped a beat at those words. The cigarettes he was smoking today were definitely not the kind a bureau chief should be seen with. No one needed to spell it out. Everyone understood the situation. And Director Song was no fool. He knew Zhang Zeki was here to take charge of today's affairs, though the reason remained unclear. Director Song offered an ingratiating smile. I know I have the upper hand in this matter. He was willing to do Zhang Zeki this favor. I'm sorry to have made you laugh, Division Commander Zhang, rest assured, I won't let an innocent person suffer. Liu, Director Song glared at the old man, who immediately said, Liu Laojian. Your family's affairs have even reached Division Commander Zhang's ears. This matter must be properly resolved. Your side is in the wrong here. How can you use their daughter and then push her to the brink? The girl says she has a solution, so you should follow her lead. Otherwise, if she really goes and accuses Liu Shiguang of bigamy, he won't be able to handle the consequences. My father-in-law flinched. He might throw his weight around at home. But he was completely out of his depth when it came to official matters. Hearing Director Song say that, he grew frightened, so he turned to me and asked, What do you want? I laid out my terms. Since you're all using my dowry items, convert them to cash and give it to me. Add to that what I've contributed to the Liu family over these years. Give me 1,000 yuan, and I'll go with Liu Shiguang to get the divorce certificate. $1,000, you might as well go rob a bank. You wouldn't even get that much from a robbery. The mother-in-law was the first to lose her composure. Zhang Zeki and Director Song frowned. The father-in-law immediately signaled for his wife to be quiet. $1,000, fine, as long as you agree to the divorce, I'll give you the money once it's finalized. Does he think he's clever? Or does he think I'm stupid? No deal, money today, certificate today, no money today, and I'm filing a report against Liu Shiguang today. If I don't get the money today, once Zhang Zeki leaves, I won't see a single cent. Don't you dare spread lies. Shiguang doesn't have another woman. How could he possibly be committing bigamy? You can sue all you want, it'll get you nowhere. Liu Shiguang and that woman even have a child together. They just never officially registered the marriage, keeping it all under wraps. He thinks I can't find any proof, but what if I do? I've got nothing left to lose, while he has everything to protect. I'm betting he doesn't have the guts to go head-to-head with me. Not a single cent less than 1,000. A person leaves their shadow, a goose leaves its cry. I believe the party and the bureau chief will see justice is done. My father-in-law was truly desperate. He could only shoot my mother-in-law a look, signaling for her to go get the money. I know they have the money. If Liu Shiguang won't give it to me, surely he'd give it to his own parents. The whole family is in cahoots. Trying to profit from my misery, I will have my revenge for this. My mother-in-law reluctantly fished out 1,000 yuan. The onlookers were all there for the spectacle. She was hurling insults, making my in-laws hang their heads in shame. I counted the money and said to Zhang Zeki, "The amount is correct. Commander Zhang, could you please take me to get a divorce from Lu Shiguang? He despises me for being infertile. And I despise him for not being a real man. So be it, let's get divorced." My in-laws were shaking with rage, and I was secretly delighted. Zhang Zeki didn't refuse. He had his guard drive me and my in-laws to the Civil Affairs Bureau to process the divorce. With Director Song's word, the divorce paperwork was finalized in no time. Holding the divorce certificate, I finally felt a sense of relief. Whether Lu Shiguang lives or dies is no longer my concern, but I will take responsibility for reporting it. I've packed up all my things and given them away. I'm ready to leave. Taking only my ID card, divorce certificate, and bank book, I took that 1,000 yuan and deposited it right after the divorce was finalized. It's much more convenient to carry it this way. As I stepped out, I happened to run into Zhang Zeki standing by the car. I stepped closer and said, "General Zhang, I really must thank you today. If it weren't for you, my matter would likely have dragged on. With no connections or influence of my own, I'd have been completely at their mercy." My gratitude towards Zhang Zeki was genuine. After all, he had no real obligation to me. It was only right to thank him for letting me use his influence. Zhang Zeki smiled, a glint of sharp understanding in his eyes. "Knowing how to leverage limited resources to get things done, you're no fool. Of course, I have my own reasons for helping you. If I'm offering assistance, I naturally expect something in return." I wasn't quite sure what Zhang Zeki meant. My wife passed away during childbirth. The child survived, and he's 6 now, that age where he's a handful for everyone. I'm looking for someone to keep him in line, so he doesn't go down the wrong path. I can see you're sharp, you don't take any nonsense, and I know you'd never let anyone close to you get shortchanged. You don't blame me for using you. In that instant, I realized my little tricks had fooled everyone else, but not this battle-hardened man. He gave a roguish grin. "Call it using if you want, if I'm willing. It's not being used, and since you can't have children, my future kids will be yours too. What do you say?" I understood. Zhang Zeki had his eye on me precisely because I couldn't bear children. I didn't put on airs. Finding a division commander for a husband was a dream come true for many. And on top of that, I'd gain a 6-year-old son. Why on earth would I refuse? But I had conditions. "General Zhang, you're a reasonable man, so I'll speak plainly. The Lu family has treated me this way, and I can't just let it slide. If you can help me teach Lu Shiguang a lesson, I'll agree to your terms." I had a selfish thought. If Zhang Zeki didn't agree, then he couldn't say I was ungrateful. I could just turn around, take that $1,000, and live quite comfortably on my own. Even if I just ran a small business, this life of mine would be far more relaxed than my last one. Zhang Zeki didn't hesitate for long. He opened the car door and said, "Let's go. Wait for word at my place. I still need to see if you're up to the task." My guard went up, and I frowned. "What if your son doesn't want me?" Zhang Zeki let out a laugh of exasperation, surely thinking I was utterly ungrateful. "Don't worry, whether my son wants you or not. I'll see through what I promised you. I'll help you to the very end." I gave a nod and got into the car. Zhang Zeki asked me, "Do you need to go back and tell your family?" I shook my head, my gaze falling on the familiar street outside. I've lived here for a few years now, and I still feel a certain attachment to this place. There's no need. Up until now, I've lived my life for others. I listened to my family and married a man I didn't love. And I worked myself to the bone for a man who amounted to nothing. From now on, I'm living for myself. There's nothing left to say to anyone else. Zhang Zeki fell silent. He may have said he'd marry me, but he hasn't actually done it. Given his status, it's not like he'd be desperate to come to my family to propose and curry favor. When we reached Zhang Zeki's doorstep, I spoke up. "Why don't we just say I'm the housekeeper you hired? We can talk about marriage once we're more familiar with each other." Zhang Zeki raised an eyebrow and said, "All right, whatever you say." It seems he's not the impatient type. After a while, I got along quite well with Zhang Zeki's son, Zhang Ningwei. The little one insisted on sleeping with me every night. Even though he was young, he was quite perceptive. One night, as he lay beside me, he whispered, "Auntie, I know you're not the nanny. You're the stepmom Dad found for me. If you're not comfortable with this, you can talk to your dad. He can just treat me as the nanny. That's fine too." To be honest, I'm a bit hesitant. Zhang Ningwei is a good kid. If he's really against Zhang Zeki remarrying, I don't necessarily have to marry him. As long as I'm paid, I'm willing to make looking after Zhang Ningwei my career. not just be an unpaid housemaid. Zhang Ningwei shook his head. This isn't good for your reputation. My dad is a responsible man. The fact that he brought you home means he genuinely approves of you. Auntie, I'm not a petty person. The reason I was angry with my dad before was because all those other women around him had ulterior motives. They tried to win me over just to get to my dad's heart, hoping he'd abandon me. I understand all that, but I've seen over this time that you don't actually like my dad at all. You just want to have a family. That's why I like you. At the very least, you're not fake, me. Thank you for having such sharp eyes and seeing things so clearly. You're making me doubt my own acting skills. So, you wouldn't mind if I married your dad? I'll tell you a secret. I'd really like to have a mom. My dad's always so busy. It used to be just me and my grandma at home, but she passed away from illness last year. Dad's hired a few temporary nannies for me, all of them very young. You could tell right away they had ulterior motives. Just after his looks and his money, me. He sure thinks highly of his dad. So you think I don't have my own motives? I want money too. And I'm also drawn to your father's good looks. I forced the words out, my face flushing with embarrassment. Zhang Zeki really is quite handsome. Zhang Ningwei hummed in agreement and said, Auntie, I understand. A woman always needs to want something. You're so much younger than my dad. He says your cooking reminds him of my mom's. I know he's smitten, so go ahead, want him. He'd be happy about it. If he's happy, I'm happy. I like you too. You two could even have a baby sister for me. I'd really like a little sister of my own, me. Ah, this kid is just too sweet. Zhang Zeki is so lucky. Come to think of it, if I married Zhang Zeki, Zhang Ningwei would be my son. Well, it's not out of the question. Zhang Ningwei and I slept soundly through the night. Early the next morning, Zhang Zeki returned and told me he was making progress on the matter. He had his guard take me to see for myself. It was at the police station that I met Lu Shiguang. He hung his head, looking thoroughly frightened. Upon seeing me, his expression immediately turned guarded. You took the money, so why are you still suing me? I didn't commit bigamy. I just wanted a son with a sex worker. Do you even understand the nature of what you've done? The guard almost broke character. Lu Shiguang immediately shut his mouth. I looked at Lu Shiguang. My emotions had long since settled. This man wasn't worth any of it. I take back everything I gave. Lu Shiguang, if you want a divorce, just say the word. I won't cling to you. But what your family has done leaves me no way out. Even a cornered rabbit will bite. If I bite back, you have only yourselves to blame. Sobbing I'm begging you. I'm already locked up because of that woman. What more do you want from me? I never wronged you before. I just wanted a child. I admit my family went too far, but I don't regret it. It was all for the sake of continuing the Lu family line. The guard seemed on the verge of saying something, but held his tongue. I stood up and left. I came to see Lu Shiguang this one last time, simply to say goodbye. He's lost his job and all his dignity. It's going to be very hard for him to get back on his feet. The guard escorted me home. And I saw Zhang Zeki hadn't left. He saw me and said, it's a good day today. Let's go get our marriage license. I nodded. I, Su Yeshu, am determined to live my own life well. Life after marriage was peaceful, except that Zhang Zeki could be a bit clingy. I thought all men were as weak as Lu Shiguang, but Zhang Zeki turned out to be anything but. I'm starting to worry our bed isn't sturdy enough. Zhang Zeki was probably worried too, and even went so far as to replace our bed with a sturdier one. I got teased about it by the neighbors in the residential compound for days. Zhang Ningwei and I got along well, so we took the kids back home for a visit during the summer break. I just never expected that while having a meal at home, I'd suddenly feel nauseous. It was only when my mom asked about my period that I realized it had been about 2 months since my last one. Since I believed I couldn't have children, I never paid any attention to my menstrual cycle. After my mom said that, I went to get checked out, and it turns out I was pregnant. I was completely stunned. My mom cried, "Heaven has finally shown us mercy. Everyone said you couldn't have children, so this pregnancy is a true miracle," the doctor said. "What do you mean she can't have children? This young lady is in perfect health and at just the right age for childbearing." "Doctor, are you sure? There must be some mistake. My daughter was married before. And they told us she couldn't have children." My mother didn't believe it, and I had my doubts too, the doctor said. "I can't speak to anything else, but the young lady is in perfect health, and the baby is healthy too. I'd recommend you keep up with the follow-up appointments." My mother led me out of the office and said bitterly, "It must be Lu Shiguang who's infertile, and to think he slandered you like that. There isn't a decent person in that Lu family. That child his new wife brought with her might not even be his." My mother came home beaming with joy. handing out celebratory candies to all the neighbors to share the news that I was pregnant. It didn't take long for the news to reach the Liu household. After his release from prison, Liu Shiguang was utterly listless. He refused to work, and the woman he was with berated him day in and day out. When Liu Shiguang heard I was pregnant, he couldn't believe it and rushed over to see me. I was taking Zhang Ningwei to buy some goldfish. He tugged at me, asking me to give him a little sister. I smiled and said okay. Liu Shiguang stared at my stomach, his face a picture of shock. I said calmly, the doctor says I can have children. I'm perfectly healthy. The one who can't is you, Liu Shiguang. Later, Zhang Zeki drove back himself and took me and Zhang Ningwei home. I was at a bit of a loss for how to explain things. After all, the reason Zhang Zeki sought me out in the first place was because I couldn't have children. After Zhang Ningwei had gone to sleep, I decided to have a talk with Zhang Zeki. Zhang Zeki, if you don't want this child, I won't force you. Let's get a divorce. I knew the military housing regulations didn't allow for a second child. What do you mean by that? You married me because I couldn't have children. This baby wasn't planned, but I want it. I thought I'd never be able to conceive. I'll raise it on my own. I won't be a burden to you. You can just. I couldn't get the words out. All this time, Zhang Zeki has done everything I've asked. He's got that old-school macho pride, yet he lets me manage the money, trusts me with our son, and even defers to me at home. I can't help but be moved. The thought of him being with another woman makes my heart ache with a dull, persistent pain. What can I do? Are you seriously trying to set me up with someone? What kind of man do you take me for? I knew you were fertile. If I hadn't wanted this, I would have taken precautions. This child was planned. It just arrived a little sooner than expected. Me? I looked up, my face a mask of shock. He chuckled and pinched my cheek. Alright, you're young but you think too much. Did you really think I wouldn't have done my homework when I was looking into Liu Shiguang? Why didn't you tell me? So I could have told you to use protection. Didn't you say you wanted to live for yourself, and don't you want a child too? As for the family planning policy, my situation is special. Ningwei isn't actually my biological son, he's the child of a comrade in arms that my ex-wife and I adopted. I've already filed a report with the authorities a long time ago for us to have this one, so you can put your mind at ease. I felt a wave of relief wash over me. I truly want to have this child. Later, when Zhang Qiqi turned 3 and started kindergarten, I landed a stable job through my own hard work and studying, with a little help from Zhang Zeki's connections. Zhang Ningwei absolutely adores his little sister, rushing to the kindergarten to pick her up the moment school lets out every day. I can pick up both kids at once. Zhang Zeki had a vasectomy before I gave birth. Our family is living in harmony now. I ran into Liu Shiguang while I was out with my child. It seemed like he had come looking for me on purpose. I know he got divorced from the woman he remarried. My mom said it was because the child wasn't his. Serves him right. Karma. I didn't look back at Liu Shiguang, holding the child. I got on my bike and prepared to leave. I hadn't gone far when I heard a tremendous crash from behind me. Someone said there had been an accident. I glanced back and saw that Liu Shiguang was gone. My pupils constricted. Liu Shiguang was lying on the ground not far away. Blood pooling around him, his gaze, unfocused, was fixed in my direction, his eyes filled with something I couldn't comprehend. It was as if he had taken on the fate that was meant for me in my past life. But it doesn't matter anymore, I said to the child. Don't look around, let's go home. Dad's coming back for dinner today. Great, let's go. I didn't look back again, because that wasn't my fate. Story 2. On our way to finalize the divorce, a runaway bus crashed into us. When I opened my eyes again, we had been sent back to the day before our wedding. Faced with the same life-altering choice, we wordlessly agreed to call off the wedding. In my past life, I was married to him for 5 years, only to be met with his lingering attachment to his first love. So in this life, I chose to let him go. He married his first love, built a life in the capital, and within 5 years had become a writer of some renown. During a book tour stop in my city, after Hua Qing and his wife made a public display of affection, he spotted me in a corner of the crowd. He walked over, hand in hand with Shen Yin, thanking me for stepping aside back then, while not missing the chance to make a quip about my current situation. 5 years, and you're still just getting by, Shen Nan said with a light laugh. Isn't that just how it is? Not everyone is destined for greatness. But later, when I stood before everyone hand in hand with my husband, Hua Qing's eyes welled up again. How could you change your heart after just 5 years, Mr. Hua? Could you please sign my book personally? In the ensuing silence, a fan's voice finally broke through, unable to hold back. I was taken aback for a moment. The Hua Qing before me felt both familiar and strange. familiar was his face, almost unchanged from 5 years ago, strange was his demeanor, now carrying a touch more steadiness and reserve. He must have matured a lot over these 5 years. And his career is on the upswing. I think that's great. It's for the best if our paths never cross again. But what's his situation now, Mr. Hua? He stared at me intently for a long moment before snapping out of it, prompted by the fan who spoke up again. His expression then relaxed abruptly, breaking into his usual gentle, amiable smile. Of course, that's fine. Thank you for enjoying my book. The tense atmosphere melted away with his gentle, soothing words, and the surrounding fans immediately began to murmur softly, Mr. Hua is really so kind. Yeah, it's probably someone like him who can write words that resonate so deeply with people. Mr. Hua, I want an autograph too. The fans around him were showering him with praise, calling him a brilliant young author and saying his novel was the most impactful work of the last 2 years. At the same time, they turned their puzzled gazes toward me, because I was dressed plainly and wore no makeup. Today was especially significant as the Shanghai stop of his book tour. The large screen didn't just display his book cover and synopsis, but also intimate photos of him and his wife, Shannan, to highlight her support during his creative process, a very public declaration of love. No one could understand why Hu Qinghui suddenly stood up from the signing table and hurried over to me. If others didn't know, I certainly had no idea. I was even baffled at how he managed to spot me in the corner after 5 years apart. Can hatred really etch someone's memory that deeply? But right then, I really didn't want to draw any unnecessary attention. I lowered my head and tried to slip away. However, Hu Qing didn't seem inclined to let me make a temporary exit. He took another step, directly blocking my path. I furrowed my brow, my patience wearing thin as I warned him, excuse me. I have things to do. Everyone was taken aback, not expecting my first words to be that. Then, a murmur spread through the crowd, someone hinting that I was Hu Qing's ex-girlfriend. In the next moment, the praises for Hu Qing turned into sneers directed at me. Isn't she the one who dumped Professor Hu back then? Now that he's got a bright future, she comes crawling back. How shameless, she clearly has no eye for talent. One comment from a fan reached my ears, suppressing my anger. I repeated firmly, Mr. Hua, step aside, you're interfering with my work. My dismissive attitude only made the onlookers more indignant. They accused me of playing hard to get and putting on an act. I took a deep breath. I wasn't here to see Hu Qing. I had other business to attend to, but there was really no point in explaining myself to them. Seeing my expression, Hu Qing could tell I was on the verge of losing my temper. With a calming gesture of his hand, he quieted the murmuring crowd. All right, everyone, that's enough. Please don't speak of Miss Jiang that way. We merely ran into each other by chance. She didn't come here specifically for me. I'd appreciate it if you'd be more considerate with your words. He offered me a bunch of high-sounding excuses, but his words were laced with insinuation, sarcastically questioning how I could possibly be in this exact spot in such a vast city at this precise moment. His fans, of course, listened to him. It was only after the crowd had thinned out a bit that he finally deigned to greet me. It's been 5 years. How come you're just getting by? I had no idea what his definition of getting by was. I just gave a wry smile and shot back. And what business is that of yours, Mr. Hua? He was taken aback for a moment, then shook his head. Jiangli, do you have to talk to me like this? If things aren't going well, you could come work as my assistant. It would be better than your current situation, at least. Before I could utter a word, Shannan emerged from behind the book signing screen. She had been there all along, though she seemed to have kept her distance to avoid causing a scene. Isn't that just how it is? After all, not everyone is destined for greatness. As she said this, she picked up her bag and naturally linked her arm with Hu Qing's, her tone carrying a hint of disapproval. Darling, you want her to be your assistant? Maybe you should think it over. Jiangli has never done any editorial work before. Given her capabilities, Shannan's tone was gentle, but her words dripped with sarcasm, mocking my lack of ability and expressing her displeasure with Hu Qing's decision to offer me the job. For a moment, Hu Qing seemed like he wanted to say more, but one look from Shannan made him back down. Understood, it was just a suggestion. Anyway, Shannan then turned to me, her words laced with sarcasm, Miss Jiang. Even though I know you're naturally beautiful, you could have at least made an effort to dress up when coming to see Hu Qing at an event like this. There are plenty of media around. She was mocking me for wearing no makeup and plain clothes. I let out a cold laugh. Why is everyone so full of themselves? Seeing that I hadn't managed to get a word in, Shannan spoke up again to advise me, her tone sickeningly sweet. If you ask me, You should find a man to marry sooner rather than later. While you're still young, otherwise, who knows how you'll manage in the future. I'm just being blunt, Miss Jiang, don't take it the wrong way, but wouldn't landing a wealthy husband be the perfect way to improve your situation? At the mention of a wealthy husband, I raised an eyebrow and took the initiative. Oh, I wonder if Miss Shen has any good recommendations. I'd love to work on improving my situation. Hu Cheng's face darkened at my words. Shen Nan, caught off guard by me seizing the opening, paused before replying coldly, how would I know anyone like that? Besides, I'm married to Hu Cheng now. I suggest you stop fantasizing about him. A few fans nearby chuckled at her remark. It was true. My presence here as the ex-girlfriend was rather inappropriate. I was at a loss for words. After a long moment, I finally managed a helpless explanation. Didn't I already say I just happened to be here? I didn't even know Hu Cheng had published a book. Do you really have to sling mud like this? What are the odds? Hu Cheng asked softly in return. I let out a long sigh and brushed him off casually. Work, Mr. Hu the great author. I have a job to do too. At that, I turned my head to look at Shen Nan. As for what you said about me pining for him, rest assured, Miss Shen, I don't go back to my exes. Hu Cheng's expression darkened slightly, but then it cleared. It seemed he was mentally allowing me my little act of defiance. I was baffled, thinking he really was overflowing with self-confidence. Alright, Jiangli, there's no need to say these things just to save face. Hu Cheng found me dull and had no desire to continue our conversation. After that remark, he added, since you're staff, you should leave now. You're somewhat disrupting the normal flow of the signing event. Looking at his haughty demeanor, I knew he hadn't changed a bit, still the same self-centered, performative personality. As for Shen Nan, she's still as obnoxious as ever. The two of them are truly a perfect match, exceptionally well suited for each other. He was the one who blocked my way first. How did it suddenly become me disrupting the book signing? I couldn't be bothered to argue. Just as I turned to leave, Hu Cheng spoke up again. I heard the owner of the venue is coming down to inspect today. As staff, you'd better not slack off and make a fool of yourself. With that, he turned and left with Shen Nan. Watching their intimate figures walk away, I was suddenly reminded of my past life. In that past life, Hu Cheng and I were actually very compatible at first. We met in university, went through a long courtship, got married, and had almost no conflicts in our daily life. I just never knew he still carried a torch for his first love, that's all. Not long after we married, he threw himself into chasing his dream of becoming a great writer. I supported his career wholeheartedly. While he was out there hustling, I took care of our home, making sure he hardly had to worry about a thing. We always treated each other with the utmost respect. But after 5 years together, everything changed. After one particular day he came back from the publisher. His attitude towards me shifted, and his gaze turned icy cold. That day, I simply thought his manuscript had been rejected again, but when I tried to comfort him, he snapped at me. Forget it, my dreams are pointless, just stop. Jiangli, you don't really believe in me either, do you? After that, Hu Cheng became rather despondent. He stayed cooped up at home for months without going out. He used to take on some freelance work to help with the household expenses, but later, I was the sole provider. I tried to salvage things, to ask him what was really going on, but he pushed me away, blaming me for disrupting his creative flow every day. In the end, we tormented each other for over half a year until our relationship finally broke down and we divorced. Watching their retreating figures, I gave a faint, bitter smile to myself. It seems Shen Nan doesn't hinder his creative inspiration. Now he's even published and has fans. It just goes to show we really weren't right for each other. Hu Cheng took a few steps forward, then turned to find me frozen in place. An expression of displeasure flickered across his face. Jiangli, have you changed your phone number? My train of thought was broken. I shook my head instinctively, and then my phone chimed with a notification. A transfer alert. The amount was a full 6 figures. I was taken aback for a moment, staring at him in utter confusion. Take the money and get out of here. Don't be an eyesore. Isn't this what you wanted? Compensation. Hu Cheng's tone was nasty, his gaze full of contempt as he looked at me. I was starting to get angry now. How many times do I have to say it? I'm not here for you. I didn't come because of you. These words clearly did nothing to reassure Hu Cheng. Shen Nan stood to the side, snickering with a mocking, insinuating tone. Then who are you here for? Don't tell me you're trying to snag some big shot. No, is that the only thing that ever crosses your mind? I could only let out a helpless laugh, my temples throbbing from their relentless questioning. After denying their assumptions, I fumbled several times to explain my actual role as staff. and their patience was visibly wearing thin. Just as they were about to say more, a tall man in a suit, surrounded by an entourage, approached from a short distance away. He had strikingly sharp, almost aggressive features, combined with his height and impeccably tailored suit. He truly cut an impressive and elegant figure. Whispers immediately rippled through the crowd. That was the owner of this commercial atrium, they said. Rumor had it his empire extended far beyond this place. He owned many large shopping malls. He'd gained quite a bit of fame in recent years, not just for his business acumen, but notably for his looks. The man's face was cold as his gaze swept the room, seemingly locking onto a target. Ignoring all the murmurs around him, he walked straight towards me. For a moment, Huiqing and his companion thought the man was coming for them, and they grew excited. Shen Nan whispered, "Brother Hua, is he here for you? Does the heir to the Qing group read your books?" Though Huiqing didn't say much, he couldn't help but feel a swell of pride. He waited with restrained anticipation for the man's next move. The surrounding fans fell into a silence. This man was the quintessential type who commanded all attention the moment he appeared, and he clearly took it for granted. The man walked up to our group and, to the clear disappointment of Huiqing and Shen Nan, completely bypassed them both. Right in front of everyone, he took my hand. Finally, a smile broke across his face, as beautiful and sudden as the thawing of winter ice, and he asked me in a gentle tone, "Ailey, what's going on here? Why is there such a crowd? Are you in some kind of trouble? Did Qingmu just hold her hand? How could this be? Who does she think she is? It can't be the one who had that high-profile wedding abroad a few years ago, can it?" The others were stunned, unable to believe their eyes as the big boss acted so intimately with an ugly duckling like me. Qingmu ignored them, his tone laced with unavoidable reproach. "Why didn't you wait for me? You shouldn't have come to inspect a place like this yourself. What if you got tired? You didn't even let the driver bring you." I huffed in annoyance as I straightened his suit collar, then gave him a light punch. What was I supposed to do? Not come? The manager messed up the glass order last time. I had to be here this time. And why did you come out without even getting dressed properly? I wanted to see you. I was too impatient. Qingmu blinked innocently, clearly enjoying this kind of affection from me. He then leaned in, wrapped his arms around me, and rested his chin on my shoulder in a hug before whispering close to my ear, "I missed you, sis." His words made my ears flush a little. Even after all these years of marriage, I still get a bit shy when he acts like that in public. I shot him a warning look, telling him to tone it down. The venue for this book signing is one of the commercial halls under Qingmu's name. It's actually a very small project, one we hardly ever think about. It's just that during the construction over the last 2 years, we ended up with a manager of questionable character. That's why I came to inspect things discreetly, which is also why I couldn't reveal my identity earlier. I just wanted to help share your burden, to see how the on-site preparations are going and whether the details are being handled properly. And you're telling me to take it easy. You're the one who's always exhausted. I explained softly why I hadn't waited for him. Qingmu raised an eyebrow and leaned in to nuzzle my face, but I shyly pushed him away. "Alright, that's enough. We're not alone." As we flirted and teased each other, the onlookers were utterly stunned. They never imagined that the famously decisive, aloof CEO, the crown prince of the Qing group, could be like this in private. Among the shocked spectators, Huiqing was practically floored. It took him a long moment of staring before he could accept the reality. Shen Nan's face fell, and her fans were left utterly speechless. Are you kidding? Who would dare speak disrespectfully to someone from the Qing group? Do they have a death wish? After snapping back to reality, Huiqing's face seemed to contort for a moment before he managed to soften his tone. Speaking to me quietly, Jiangli, you and this Mr. Chungar, what's it to you? Before I could even utter a word, Qingmu turned his head and shot him a cold, inexplicable question. Then, as if remembering something, he kissed me right then and there. The meaning was crystal clear. A few gasps of surprise rippled through the crowd. Having grown up abroad, he never shied away from such overt displays of affection. "Alright, that's enough. Someone's getting a bit too clingy." With a playful huff, I pushed him away. I handed the inspection report to the assistant behind him and, without acknowledging Huiqing, turned to leave with Qingmu. From start to finish, I didn't spare either of them a single glance. Once we were outside the mall, I felt a bit embarrassed. There were so many people just now. Qingmu showed not a hint of remorse on his face and spoke with childish defiance. "What's wrong with kissing my own wife? It's only natural. Besides, I did it for that Hu guy to see. Who told him to look at you so strangely earlier? You're such a child." I tugged playfully at his cheek with a smile, not really upset, Mu must have recognized Huiqing instantly. His act of walking towards them was deliberate. He knew Huiqing was my ex-boyfriend, but after that little episode, I didn't dwell on my earlier annoyance. It's all ancient history anyway. Huiqing and I are from different worlds now, and our paths won't cross again, lost in thought. I walked with Mu to the car. Just as I was about to get in, a voice called out to stop me. Jiangli, wait. We turned to see Huiqing rushing out of the lobby, calling my name breathlessly. Is there something you need from my wife, Mr. Hua? Mu turned around, glaring at him with a sour, impatient expression. Huiqing was panting heavily, finally catching his breath enough to speak, only to be cut off by Mu again. Whatever it is, I'm afraid it'll have to wait. My wife is unavailable right now, as she needs to accompany me home for dinner immediately, and we're flying abroad together tonight. Oh, and I forgot to mention, we've actually been married for several years now, and we're especially af. Before he could finish, I covered his mouth, shooting him an exasperated glare. Mu obediently fell silent, but his expression remained unpleasant, as if a whole vat of vinegar had been smashed. Huiqing was momentarily taken aback by our intimate gesture. After a brief pause, he gathered his courage and said, Jiangli, can we talk in private? I nodded, then gave Mu a little shove. It was clear he wanted to stay with me, and with that push, his metaphorical dog ears seemed to droop. He got in the car anyway. Before getting in, he shot Huiqing a glare full of hostility, his expression turning cold as he tossed out a final remark, 10 minutes. He might sound domineering and threatening, but the subtext is that he'll get jealous and upset in 10 minutes, the kind that's impossible to placate. Just thinking about it makes me want to laugh. Huiqing and I walked a few steps away, and then I spoke coolly, alright, just say what you need to say here. My husband is waiting for me. Huiqing hesitated for a long time, seemingly at a loss for words. Seeing him like that just irritated me. I frowned and urged him, just spit it out. We've been divorced for ages. What's the difference between us and strangers now? What on earth can't you say? At my words, Huiqing's eyes instantly welled up, as if deeply wronged, and he spoke in a hoarse voice. How could you change your heart after just 5 years? I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. I thought he actually had something important to tell me, and it was just this. My tone turned sharp immediately. What's it to you? You're married. I'm free to see whoever I want. What do you mean, what's it to me? Didn't you promise you'd only ever love me? Huiqing frantically tried to justify himself. I immediately shook off the hand he had just placed on mine, finding the whole situation utterly ridiculous. I had given him far too much face at the book signing earlier, holding back only because his fans and wife were present. I couldn't contain my anger any longer and lashed out. Are you kidding me? In our last life, you were the one who picked fights and made our marriage impossible. In this life, you're the one who turned your back first. You broke up with me and married Shannan within months, and now you have the nerve to hold me to a double standard. Huiqing, you make me sick. After saying that, I turned to leave. Huiqing fell silent for a long moment, his own temper finally flaring, and he shouted back in anger, you're only with Mu for his money. What kind of decent man could someone like him possibly be? I glared at him, seething with rage. So what? Are you only happy if I'm doing worse than you? You think you've made it in life by offering me some lousy assistant job as charity? Huiqing seemed to have his true feelings laid bare by my pointed remark. He stammered, at a loss for words, and only managed to retort after a long pause. What else can I say now that you've latched onto someone like that, Jiangli? I never expected you to be so morally bankrupt. You probably climbed your way up using some underhanded method. Do you really think he would? His impassioned tirade was cut short by a sharp cry of pain, and the next moment, he crashed to the floor. Shut your filthy mouth. Mu kicked him to the ground. His face was chillingly cold, and the look he gave the man from above was utterly devoid of emotion, a stark contrast to how he'd just been acting sweet with me. I knew he was genuinely angry, so for a moment, I didn't stop him. You've gone too far. Huiqing lay sprawled on the floor, glaring up at him with pure venom. Mu stepped in front of me, gave a polite nod, and said coolly, I'm sorry, Mr. Hua, but your remarks just now have defamed both me and my wife. I could sue you for that. Then he paused and shrugged. As for the rest, being wealthy is just one of my virtues. You don't measure up to me in any other regard either. At this point, the tension in the air became palpable. Seeing that neither of them was willing to back down, I feigned annoyance and chided Mu. Why resort to violence all of a sudden? That wasn't necessary. If I hadn't done that, he would have said something even more vile. Ali, you're my wife. How could I let you be humiliated like that? The way he insulted you, who could stand for that? Qingmu looked utterly unconcerned, casting a contemptuous glance at Huiqing. Besides, I wouldn't be where I am today without you, gold digger, social climber. Is that really what he thinks of you? We fell in love and got married out in the open, fair and square. How could it be? How could she possibly know someone from your social class? Huiqing muttered to himself that it was impossible, but the truth was exactly that. I met Qingmu right after his father passed away. When he had just returned from abroad, no one in the Qing family thought much of the young master, and the Qing family's lucrative business was being voraciously carved up by relatives like a pack of wolves. In my previous life, I only crossed paths with him once on a business matter. I saw a man full of ambition, yet completely hamstrung by his complicated family situation, and the impression was quite profound. So when I got a second chance at life, I went straight to him. Wanting to lend a hand, at first, I just wanted to find a promising boss for myself. Helping him was a way to help me too. Developing feelings was completely unexpected. Over these 5 years, I used my knowledge from my past life to help him catch wave after wave of opportunity. That's what saved the Qing group from collapse and built Qingmu an even greater business empire. Honey, you go home and wait for me first. Don't worry, nothing like that will happen again, I soothed him gently. With a hint of a pout, finally smoothing down Qingmu's ruffled feathers, after seeing him into the car, I turned to Huiqing with a cold expression. Whatever I said in my past life, it's over between us. Huiqing, don't come to see me again, unless you want me to personally destroy your dream of being a writer. Hearing this, Huiqing's emotions flared up instantly. Fine, Jiangli, go ahead and destroy it then. You've already done it once before, I don't mind you doing it again. Isn't that just the kind of woman you are? Stop pretending to be the good one. I was stunned for a long moment before asking in confusion, what are you talking about? When did I ever do something like that? What's the matter? Afraid to own up to what you did? Huiqing let out a bitter laugh. Wasn't it you who submitted the exact same manuscript to the publisher in our past life, getting my work branded as plagiarism? After that, no publisher would trust me. I was utterly baffled. And in that instant, his sudden, drastic change in attitude towards our marriage flashed through my mind. What are you talking about? Forget the fact that I'm only just hearing about this now. Even if I had known back then, there's no way I would have done it. What possible benefit would I have gotten from that? As I retorted with a denial, Huiqing refused to believe me. With tears welling in his eyes, he stared at me and said, apart from you, I only showed the manuscript to Shennan. How could it possibly be her? Jiangli, can you stop pretending? What good would it do me to stop you from becoming famous? I was your wife at the time. I cried out in disbelief. Huiqing, at a loss for words, could only stammer, maybe you resented me for being too busy with work to spend time with you. That's why you resorted to such a desperate measure. Hearing this, I refused to accept his excuse. I immediately pressed forward, step by step, and spoke through gritted teeth. Where did you get that idea? Who told you that? Huiqing met my gaze and instinctively took a few steps back. It was Shennan. I stopped in my tracks, finding the whole thing utterly ridiculous. 5 years of feelings, shattered by just a few words from Shennan. For a moment, I couldn't tell if Huiqing was just stupid or something else entirely, but the most straightforward reason is simply that he never loved me at all. Throughout this marriage, I tormented myself countless times, wondering what I had done wrong to cause its failure. Now the whole truth is out. It was all because of Shennan's few words of slander and sowing discord. Huiqing, we lived together for 5 years. Search your conscience and tell me, in what way did I, Jiangli, ever wrong you? When I was your wife, I wanted your dreams to come true more than anyone else. After saying this, I took a deep breath to suppress a sob. Having absolutely nothing left to say to him, I turned and left. Getting into the car, in the rearview mirror, Huiqing stood there dejectedly, silent for a long time. I hadn't seen Huiqing for a long time after that day. Who would have thought? Not long after, Huiqing's career imploded. For a moment, trending searches flooded in one after another, with claims that paparazzi had captured footage of him physically abusing Shennan. The moment I clicked on the video, I understood why his downfall was so swift. Usually, these expose videos are grainy, leaving room for speculation, but Huiqing's video was crystal clear. You could still recognize him even with his face blown up 3 times. After this video surfaced, the devoted husband persona Huiqing had carefully crafted over the past 2 years instantly crumbled. Many of his fans on social media unfollowed him in droves. His books were pulled from major bookstores, and they're now impossible to find. The internet was flooded with condemnation for him. Qingmu held me close And after hearing me recount the story, he let out a cold, derisive laugh. It just goes to show, you can't judge a book by its cover. I knew from the start he was no good, but to think he'd actually hit his wife. I gazed at him with a smile for a long moment before nestling into his arms and teasing him on purpose. Ching-Mu, you wouldn't treat me like that in the future, would you? Hearing this, Ching-Mu immediately swore he wouldn't, then leaned in to kiss me. How could I ever treat you like that? I love you so much. In these 4 years, forget about hitting you. Have I ever said a single harsh word to you? Our home has always been run by you. That made me laugh heartily. It was really just a joke. I trust him completely. Otherwise, after the failure of my marriage in my past life, I wouldn't have resolutely chosen to walk into the marriage hall with him this time. After this incident, Hu Cheng's book signing event was suspended, and organizers in other cities proposed cancellations one after another. At first, Hu Cheng was still getting cursed out and hounded by readers at his home. Later, as the hype died down, he gradually faded from the public eye. I didn't feel much about it, but to my surprise, Hu Cheng showed up at the gate of my villa a few days later. He looked gaunt and unshaven. It was raining outside, and he was soaked to the bone. A far cry from his former confident and spirited self. What are you doing here? I was taken aback. This was a private villa community, and they checked everyone coming and going. How on earth did he find this place? Hu Cheng's eyes lit up the moment he saw me, and he blurted out an explanation in a fluster. I just had someone look into it. A reporter said your husband's car comes back here every day. Ching-Mu was away on a business trip, so I held the door with a hint of wariness, ready to flee at a moment's notice if he tried anything. But Hu Cheng just paused for a moment, taken aback by my expression, then pressed his lips together and stated his reason for coming. I asked Shen Nan if I weren't with her, how would she try to win me back from you? Seeing the look of bitter regret on his face, I could already guess what Shen Nan had said. Sure enough, Hu Cheng spoke the next moment. She said she would stop at nothing. I pressed for specifics, and she actually admitted she'd resort to framing you. Hu Cheng spoke through his tears, and at this point, he completely broke down, swearing to me. I only hit her because I was just so angry. Jiangli, I would never do that to you. I believe you. When I said I believed him, Hu Cheng's eyes lit up, taking it as a sign of reconciliation, and he stumbled forward a couple of steps. So I shrugged, because you'll never get the chance to lay a hand on me. I'm Ching-Mu's wife now. What does that have to do with you? Hu Cheng trembled all over upon hearing this, then slowly knelt down to apologize. He kept kowtowing and pleading. I'm sorry, I was wrong, Jiangli. It's you I've always loved. Why won't you believe me? Won't you even give me one more chance? But all that greeted him was the violent slam of the door. Only after the door was shut did I feel a slight sense of relief. Hu Cheng, I will never forgive you, and don't you ever come bothering me again. After that day, Hu Cheng showed up a few more times, but I called the residential security on him each time. After I asked the property management to keep a closer watch, he never came back. When Ching-Mu returned a few days later and heard about this, he was absolutely beside himself with worry. Not long after that, Hu Cheng's reputation took another nosedive. Following the domestic violence incident with his wife, he was then exposed for persistently harassing his ex-girlfriend. The online criticism targeting him flared up again, with plenty of hired trolls stirring the pot. I glanced at Ching-Mu, who was pretending nothing was wrong, and deliberately held out the spoon from our meal like a microphone. President Cheng, what's your take on the recent hot topic? Ching-Mu put on a perfectly innocent look. What hot topic? I've been busy spending time with my wife lately. Oh, cut the act, Ching-Mu. I flicked his forehead in annoyance, knowing full well he was the one behind this. Without his order, the surveillance footage of Hu Cheng harassing me would never have gotten out. Especially those major marketing accounts leading the charge. They all have shares in the Cheng Group. No one would believe Ching-Mu wasn't involved. I can't stand him, and now he's setting his sights on you. If we don't teach him a lesson, what's to stop him from trying again? We're already married. What more does he want? It's a miracle we haven't had him taken out already. Hearing Ching-Mu's words, I couldn't help but pull him into a hug, patting his back and teasing him affectionately. Calm down, Mr. Cheng. We live in a society governed by law. Don't even think about resorting to underhanded methods. Ching-Mu was clearly pleased with my attitude. His ruffled feathers were instantly smoothed. Even without the old-fashioned ways, I can still ruin his reputation. I was just about to respond when my phone rang. The caller ID showed Hu Cheng. Ching-Mu saw it too and answered the call with clear annoyance the next second. Hello, you're calling again. What? Huh, okay, I got it. Seeing his attitude shift from annoyance to shock, I was slightly puzzled. Qingmu explained, that was a police officer. He said Huqing was hit by a car and left partially paralyzed. He wants to see me right away. What happened? Partially paralyzed. I frowned and asked for the specifics. It turned out someone had deliberately tried to kill Huqing. The killer was clearly aiming to take his life from the start. Thankfully, a passerby pulled him out of the way during the incident, which is the only reason he survived. The identity of the perpetrator isn't something we can easily disclose. After exchanging a glance with Qingmu, I agreed, thinking this might be the last time we'd see each other. Jiangli, you're here. In the hospital room, Huqing was in a wheelchair. The moment he saw me, he became visibly agitated, frantically trying to will himself over. I knew you still had feelings for me. He said this while struggling to shuffle towards me. Watching his stroke-like movements, I couldn't help but feel a pang of pity, yet, I instinctively stepped aside, revealing Qingmu standing outside the door. You'll forgive. The next words Huqing intended to say caught in his throat. I looked at him coldly. I heard you had something to say to me. Huqing's gaze shifted between the two of us. He opened his mouth but no words came out. It seemed he had turned my attendance into a test, a gamble on whether I still had feelings for him. To him, my presence meant I still loved him. I just thought he was incredibly naive. Seeing he had nothing more to say, I turned to leave. Jiangli, seeing I was about to leave, Huqing called out to stop me, hoping to speak with me alone. With a cold snort, Qingmu vanished out the door, murmuring a quiet instruction to call him if anything happened. He'd be right there. I gave a slight nod, my eyes telling him it was okay. Only after watching Qingmu leave did Huqing start rambling on and on about how terribly sorry he felt, tears streaming down his face. It's all my fault. In our past life, if Shen Nan hadn't framed me and driven a wedge between us, we would have had a perfect ending. Jiangli, I can't let you go. That I ended up like this, hit by Shen Nan. I deserved it. I was inwardly shocked, thinking Shen Nan was truly ruthless, even before the police revealed anything. I had a sneaking suspicion it was either her or some obsessed fan. Huqing went on and on about the incident. It turns out that after Shen Nan hit him, she just fled the scene, but she must have been inexperienced, because she was caught that very same night. Huqing mentioned she was driving in the direction of my neighborhood. Hearing that sent a chill down my spine. Who knows what would have happened if we hadn't caught him. Huqing paid no attention to this, still weeping as he claimed he had atoned. Please, give me another chance. Jiangli, faced with his tearful plea, I shook my head slightly. Your atonement has nothing to do with me, and I will never forgive the man who labeled me based on a one-sided story. Do you have anything else to say? Huqing was taken aback and found himself at a loss for words, seeing him like that. I turned and walked away. Huqing tried to chase after me but couldn't catch up, and in his panic, he started shouting frantically behind me. Do you really think Qingmu truly loves you? He'll abandon you once the novelty wears off. Aren't all rich people just like that? I paused mid-step and glanced back slightly. That's none of your concern. The moment I stepped out of the hospital room, I spotted Qingmu eavesdropping from around the corner, and I couldn't help but find it amusing. He snapped at Huqing for spreading rumors, which I found quite amusing. Qingmu declared that if he kept it up, he'd make sure he ended up paralyzed and on a liquid diet for the rest of his life. I stood on my tiptoes and patted his head. Yes, our CEO Qing is the best. Qingmu's face flushed a little, but he still took my hand, and we headed home together, flirting and teasing each other all the way. After that, I didn't hear from Huqing for a long time. The next time I asked about him, I heard he had already taken his own life. The police delivered a suicide note he left for me, but I burned it without even reading it. The world lost a Mr. Hua, the writer, but it made no difference to me. I had long since moved on and started a new life, and now, on to the second story. After being reborn, he spent every day thinking I'd meekly hand over my study abroad opportunity to his stepsister. In reality, I turned right around and submitted my application at the visa center. When he had no money for food, I pretended not to see. He was cheating on me with Guqing behind my back. I promptly turned the tables and made their affair photos public, all because in my past life, I cared for his paralyzed father and raised his infant son, yet he simply abandoned us and left for a distant land. His reasoning was that marrying too young robbed him of the freedom of being single, yet Guqing settled into a blissful married life with him. Even the son I raised for 18 years started calling Guqing mom. In this life, I want nothing to do with that scumbag or his ungrateful son. Holding the voluntary waiver of state-sponsored study abroad opportunity form in my hand, I felt a wave of disorientation. I had been reborn, the realization made my nose sting with emotion, fighting back the tears. I tore the document in my hand to shreds and threw it into the trash. Lin Qiu watched my fluid, practiced movements with astonishment. She asked me in disbelief, "You're not going to give it to Professor Shen?" I nodded, "No, I'm not." Lin Qiu grabbed my hand excitedly, "Good thing I came with you. I had a feeling I'd be able to talk some sense into you today. Don't throw away your future for that scumbag." The scumbag Lin Qiu was referring to was my boyfriend, or rather, my fiancé, Qing Tian. We started dating secretly in high school, hiding it from our parents. After my parents passed away in a car accident, he was there for me through the darkest time, so I always believed I would spend the rest of my life happily with him, from schoolmates to soulmates. And yet, I smiled and squeezed Lin Qiu's hand in return. "Thank you, Xiao Qiu. I'm the top student in our department. Why on earth should I hand over such a great opportunity to someone else? My fate should be in my own hands. I shouldn't let others, especially men, dictate my thoughts." Lin Qiu was genuinely delighted to hear me say that. She linked her arm with mine and insisted on treating me to bubble tea. As I followed her towards the campus gate, I took in all the little details of C University. How many years had it been since I was last on campus? In my past life, I gave up a government-sponsored study abroad opportunity for someone else, all because of a few words from Qing Tian. It's not just anyone, this person is Qingyue, my stepmother's daughter. Qingyue and I were never close, as she was always jealous that I consistently outshone her academically. This was especially true after Mr. Shen announced that the top student would receive a government-funded scholarship for postgraduate studies in the UK. Her resentment towards me reached its peak. "Honestly, I don't really care," but he kept saying, "Xiao Ran, Yaya is my sister. Her mother passed away a few years ago. She's so pitiful. If she loses this chance, she'll definitely kill herself. You know Yaya has depression." I lowered my head and said nothing. He kept trying to convince me, "But you still have me. We'll get married. We'll have lots of babies. We can be perfectly happy even if you don't go study abroad." Seeing my expression begin to waver, Qing Tian immediately dropped to one knee, plucked a random pull-tab ring from the grass, and slipped it onto my finger. "Xiao Ran, I love you. Marry me. I'll make you happy forever." I agreed, and then wrote the voluntary waiver of state-sponsored study abroad opportunity letter. Today is the day I'm supposed to hand this letter to Professor Shen. Only the Qing Tian family and Lin Qiu know about this. I didn't tell Professor Shen in advance. I was constantly worried that Teacher Shen would find out and try to talk me out of it, and that I might waver. So, I decided to act first and ask for forgiveness later. This also spares me the trouble of having to explain everything to Teacher Shen in this lifetime. I won't have to face the disappointment in Teacher Shen's eyes again. I was at the bubble tea shop, slurping up the tapioca pearls with effort while listening to Lin Qiu vent her righteous indignation. Tearing into Qing Tian, she said, "Qing Tian is nothing but a pretty face, a rotten, worthless man who's actually malicious and stupid to the core. He just got lucky running into a kind-hearted and gullible girl like you." I bit down on my straw and let out a laugh. To put it nicely, I was kind-hearted and gullible. In reality, I was incredibly foolish. In my past life, after I gave up my chance to study abroad, I quickly married him and got our marriage certificate. We didn't have a wedding ceremony or a reception. He said, "Darling, I have no money right now. I don't want to use your money for these ceremonies." What would that do to my pride as a man? But don't worry, once I have the money, I will give you the grandest wedding you can imagine. I ended up waiting a lifetime for that wedding. When our son was 4, Qing Tian graduated with his master's degree and was assigned to work in X City. City X is a long way from our home. It's a 7-hour trip by high-speed rail. I didn't want the family to be split up, so I suggested we all go together. But he said to me, "I married you so young and barely got to experience being single. Now that I finally have the chance, just give me a little space and freedom." But didn't I get married young and give up my education for it? Wasn't I the one who shouldered the entire responsibility of caring for the family? No one ever cared about how I felt. He packed his bags and left for a distant place just a few days later. He left me with our child and his father, who is bedridden. I have been tirelessly taking care of this family. You wanted space, you wanted freedom, and I gave it to you. But reality soon slapped me in the face again. Guqing quit her job at the private art exam tutoring center and followed Qing Tian to X City. It was Lin Qiu, whom I hadn't spoken to in ages, who told me about this. In my past life, my insistence on giving up my study abroad spot to Qing Yu completely disappointed Lin Qiu. We hadn't been in touch for a long time. Yet she was still quietly keeping an eye on me. She told me long ago that Qingtian had an inappropriate relationship with Guqing, but I always deluded myself, believing that I was the one Qingtian truly loved. After finishing the milk tea, I went back home. It's called a home, but the painful hours I've spent here far outweigh the happy ones. I didn't cook, nor did I pay any mind to the faint, whimpering voice calling my name from the other room. I just sat on the sofa, looking around. In my past life, I raised my son here alone until he was 18. That summer, after his college entrance exams, he said he wanted to go to Qingtian for a trip. I had no reason to refuse. In all these years, I could count the number of times I've seen Qingtian on one hand. He wouldn't let me go, and he hardly ever came back himself, and so, we've been maintaining this marriage in name only. It's pathetic, isn't it? But I thought at least I still had my son, then. As summer break was ending and school was about to start, I called to ask when he was coming home. He told me, "I'm happier here with Dad," so I changed my college application to City X, and then the call was disconnected. Over time, he and Tianqing became more like family. He wouldn't even come home for summer or winter breaks. He'd go over to Guqing's place to help out, changing burnt-out light bulbs, fixing leaky faucets, and taking apart the air conditioner for a deep clean. I don't know when he grew up so much. Is he really this mature already? At home, he's always just the guy glued to the couch playing video games. If I ask him to lift his feet while I'm mopping, he'd snap and yell at me. He even calls Guqing mom directly. I called him that Chinese New Year, but he impatiently said nothing's wrong and hung up first. Perhaps he was in too much of a hurry and didn't properly end the call. I held the phone to my ear, unable to bring myself to hang up either. I just wanted to hear my son's voice a little longer. To my surprise, a cheerful voice came through, completely different from the one he used when speaking to me. He said, "Mom, Happy New Year. I hope you and Dad can find your way back to each other soon." I confronted him about it, but he said, without a hint of guilt, "Well, Guqing's mom knew Dad first. If you hadn't stolen her away, I should have been the one born from her womb. So what's wrong with me calling her mom?" The sound of the door opening snapped me out of my reverie. He was tall and had a very upright, honest-looking face. He was the absolute gold standard in the arranged dating scene, beloved by elders and popular with women alike. My past self was no exception, but seeing him now, all I could see was a sanctimonious hypocrite. Upon hearing the groans from inside the room, his first instinct wasn't to go in and see what was wrong. Instead, he confronted me, demanding, "How have you been taking care of Dad?" I found it laughable. His filial piety is all talk and no action. He stands on his moral high ground, criticizing me for not doing enough, for not doing it well enough. All he had to do was sit back and do nothing. He just sat on the sofa, dishing out orders while watching me run around, exhausted and bent over from the work. I gave a scornful laugh. "That's your father, not mine." I could clearly feel the sudden surge of anger rushing to his head. But he quickly steadied his breathing and unclenched his tightly balled fists. He should remember that I went to the school today to submit my formal letter declining the government-sponsored study abroad opportunity. He probably thought that's why I was in a bad mood, thinking he was being considerate. He said to me, all right, I'll go take care of Dad for you. You get some rest. Help me." What a joke. He takes care of his own bedridden father, yet he calls it helping me. I didn't cook dinner, and the excuse was still, "I'm tired from school today." He can't cook either, so we ended up ordering takeout. He kept sneaking glances at me while we were settling the bill. He was probably wondering why I hadn't offered to pay for him yet today. I just pretended not to notice and started playing a match 3 puzzle game on my phone. After dinner, he wanted to be intimate, but I turned him down, using my period as an excuse, because I remembered all too clearly. It was that very night of intimacy in my past life that led to me conceiving that ungrateful son. The truth is, I have polycystic ovary syndrome. This was discovered by chance during a routine checkup. I was just a freshman at the time, and neither of us had any plans for a child. He even joked back then, "If you can't get pregnant, does that mean we don't need to use condoms? Without proper ovulation, you can't have a child." So, for the past few months, I've been quietly going to the hospital for treatment. I started taking hormone-based medication, and occasionally getting injections. Dizziness and nausea have been my constant companions. Sometimes during a meal, I'd suddenly rush to the bathroom and throw up into the toilet. He'd even joke nonchalantly all the time, saying, "Could it be you're pregnant? Looks like my sperm quality is so good it could cure your illness." If a hospital was willing to pay a fortune to use my sperm as medicine, I'd be open to it. I'll never forget the fear and anxiety I felt when the doctor inserted their hand into my uterus during the examination, and the excruciating pain when the nurse pressed down on me during the x-ray. Perhaps I am one of the lucky ones, because for many more, getting pregnant isn't possible with just basic checkups and medication. They endure far greater hardship. Surgery might even be necessary, yet, in some ways, I am also unfortunate, because I gave birth to a son. The son who treats the woman that ruined my marriage with Qingtian as his mother, the son who would advise his father to divorce me as soon as possible. He still doesn't understand Qingtian well enough. It's not that Qingtian doesn't want to divorce me, he just can't swallow his pride. It all goes back to those grand vows he made, just to get his hands on the inheritance my parents left behind. It's his own vanity. As a self-proclaimed scholar, that's holding him back. I couldn't bring myself to say it. He was hoping I would be the one to file for divorce. That way, he wouldn't have to bear any responsibility. By that point, he had no use for me at all. I'm getting old and have outlived my usefulness. Qingtian's father was also taken away by Qingtian. Guqing wanted to show Qingtian what a devoted daughter-in-law she was. Unlike me, always complaining about how hard it is to care for my father-in-law, she actually introduced her own mother, a former actress in a song and dance troupe, to her father-in-law. Just when he was on death's doorstep, my father-in-law found love again. Of course, he moved out immediately. He showed no gratitude for all the care I'd given him over the years, even with slurred speech. He had to call me a useless piece of trash on his way out. It was my son who came to pick up his grandfather. My son said, "Since you're the only one left here now, why don't you just sell the house? You can give me the money as a wedding gift." "Since when are you getting married?" I asked, flustered. "None of your business, just think it over, I'm leaving." With that, he rolled his eyes and started to walk away without a backward glance. I grabbed his arm. "I'm going to tell everyone about the improper relationship between your father and Guqing." He shook me off furiously, and I tumbled down the stairs. Just before I blacked out completely, I heard the sound of him on a phone call. This woman fell down the stairs. She must be done for now. Serves her right. Mom, you're just too kind. She's the one who's been squatting in the nest that isn't hers. She's the reason you and Dad can't be together openly. While he was busy on the phone with Guqing, I slipped into the room and locked the door. He thinks I don't know he spends an hour on the phone with Guqing every single night, or perhaps he simply didn't care what I thought. In any case, after I gave up the opportunity to study abroad for his sister, my usefulness was diminished by half once more. In my past life, I gave almost everything for the sake of the Qingtian family. I don't have many friends because I simply don't have the time to make any. I have to rush home after school to cook, clean, and take care of my bedridden father. Taking care of a grown man who's paralyzed and bedridden is no easy task. I had originally wanted to hire a caregiver, yet both he and his son are convinced that having me is enough. Qingtian's father never stops calling me a good-for-nothing spendthrift. He never stops to think that the roof over their heads and the food on their table, it all comes from the inheritance my parents left behind. Qingtian has his own room, and his father has another. As for me, aside from helping Qingtian with his physical needs, I have to sleep on the floor in his father's room the rest of the time, so I can look after him at any moment, taking care of him when he was thirsty, hungry, or had soiled the bed. This pattern emerged after his stepmother passed away and his stepsister left for college. No one remembers that I was once a delicate young girl who never had to lift a finger. I don't even feel sorry for myself anymore. Then who would take me seriously? But since fate has given me a second chance at life, I certainly can't repeat the miserable existence of my past life. I've scheduled my visa appointment for 5 days from now. It's an expedited visa. The flight and student accommodation are all booked. In 2 weeks at most, I'll be gone from here for good. I fell asleep. In my drowsy state, I thought I heard the sound of someone trying the doorknob. It didn't work. But he didn't dare to shout out loud, because in the eyes of others, he's the model of a devoted son and perfect husband. I don't know if he would sleep under his father's bed. I doubt it, because every time he sees me cleaning the filth from his father's body, I felt so sick I thought I was going to throw up any second. What a fine son. I left the house early the next morning, just as I expected. He slept on the sofa all day. I went to the school to get some documents stamped. Ms. Shen and I happily daydreamed about the wonderful life that awaited us abroad. I told her she absolutely had to come visit me. She looked at me with eyes full of affection. Xiao Ran, I was really afraid you were going to give up this opportunity. I was taken aback. I thought Ms. Shen was completely unaware. It turns out she had seen everything. My eyes welled up with tears once more. Don't worry, Professor Shen, I won't give up the life I was meant to live for anyone ever again. I ran into Guqing on my way home. Guqing was a woman with a graceful figure. She wasn't a stunning beauty, but her captivating, almond-shaped eyes held a certain charm. She is a music teacher at a private art exam prep school, blessed with a beautiful singing voice. When she coquettishly uses that nightingale-like voice of hers, it's no wonder Qing Tian is head over heels in love. I have no interest in talking to her any further. After all, ever since the day I was reborn, we haven't even been rivals in love, but she relentlessly blocked my path. Jiran, what's this? You see me and can't even say hello. Is that how your parents taught you to behave? Oh, my apologies, I forgot. Your parents are dead. With that, she let out a tittering laugh, my fists clenched. Yet, I didn't want to get a reputation for brawling right before going abroad. Seeing I was silent, she changed the subject. I heard you gave up your chance to study abroad for Qingyu. Do you know what Qingyu calls me? She calls me sister-in-law. Are you trying to bribe Qing Tian's family with a study abroad opportunity? Let me tell you, you're dreaming, I asked her. Aren't you afraid I'll expose your improper relationship with Qing Tian to the public? She stared at me as if she'd seen a monster. Well, I'm not worried. Even if I lose my job, Qing Tian can still support me. Oh, of course, with the money your dearly departed parents left behind. But if this ends up harming Qing Tian's future prospects, do you really think he'll still marry you? She still thinks I'm that Jiran who can't live a day without her. As soon as I got back, I started packing my bags. I didn't want to stay here a moment longer, but I knew I had to be patient. I say I'm packing, but truthfully, I don't have much to begin with. There was a time when I was just a girl who loved buying pretty clothes, but how long has it been since I last bought anything new to wear? Barely into my 20s. And I've already let myself go completely. I think a part of me started dying when I was 20. In my past life, he'd come home late every single night. I knew he was going to a hotel with Guqing. I even knew they were booking it by the hour. He's perpetually broke. He relies on the allowance I give him each month to get by. This is the third year he's been preparing for the postgraduate entrance exam. Every day, he puts on a show of going to the study room to work. It's simply because the study room and the training center where Guqing works are in the same building. It made it convenient for them to meet in secret and pour their hearts out. If I hadn't been hurt so badly by them, I might have even praised their so-called great love. That was the first time I found out they were meeting at a hotel. It was because the hotel they frequented was owned by Lin Qiu's family. She had observed that despicable pair on multiple occasions before cautiously telling me about it. This epithet reflected Lin Qiu's utter contempt for them. I remember how I felt when I first heard about this in my past life. It was agony, mixed with a self-deceiving urge to run away. I fled, then went home and pretended to know nothing, making a late-night snack for the ever-late Qing Tian. Of course, he won't be getting any food tonight. When he walked into the kitchen and found the fridge completely empty, he couldn't help but confront me. I said, if you're so capable, why don't you get your father out of bed to cook for you? He just stammered you. For the longest time, unable to get another word out. I could tell he wanted to swear. But I cut in, you're an educated man. Educated people don't use foul language. I couldn't be bothered to look at his trembling, furious body. I just pulled out my phone from my pocket and started ordering takeout. Of course, I didn't order any for him. He's too proud to admit he's wrong, so he's just playing dumb. Well, two can play at that game. This time, I walked right into his room. No, wait, the whole house is mine. I locked the door and went back to packing. I hadn't set foot in Qin Tian's father's room for days. I had no idea how he was managing his basic needs. I wasn't curious, and I didn't care. But even the closed door couldn't keep the stench of filth and stale urine from seeping out of his room. I have to get out of here as soon as possible. For days, he hadn't dared to confront me about what he saw as my highly unusual behavior. Not only was he an educated man, but also because he was broke. I know him. The days when he was most honest and considerate were the days when he was broke. Even when he was flat broke, he'd still insist on getting a hotel room with Guqing a few times a week. A quick 2-hour session in a short-stay hotel. That's also what Lin Qiu told me. One can't even empathize with their past self. I think back to my past life, when I refused to believe any of this. Perhaps it was the fear that if this were exposed, they would leave me for good. So I always tell Lin Qiu, maybe he just went to Guqing for help with his homework. A computer science student asking a music teacher for academic advice. Lin Qiu looked at me like I was crazy. I really am a bit nuts. So in this life, when Lin Qiu saw how decisively I was cutting ties with Qing Tian, she got even more worked up about it than I was. She even came with me to the visa application center. We got everything sorted in just 5 minutes. The staff said the visa could be issued within 5 business days, 10 days. In just 10 more days, I'll be leaving this place that's held me captive my whole life, Lin Qiu said. I don't think it's enough to just not give the spot to Qingyu. You should go to Guqing's workplace and expose her improper relationship with Qing Tian to everyone who would want a homewrecker teaching their own child. Once she loses her job, Guqing will settle down. I chuckled. Wouldn't that just be letting Qing Tian off the hook? If it weren't for Qing Tian constantly throwing himself at Guqing, Guqing makes a decent living as an art exam tutor. Why on earth would she be the other woman for a guy who can't even pass his postgraduate entrance exams after 3 tries and is as broke as he is shameless? Lin Qiu thought for a moment. Then let the scumbag and the homewrecker go to hell together. I think Guqing is despicable, sure, but the one who truly deserves to die is Qing Tian. My visa and passport arrived safely at Professor Shin's office on the 5th business day. I walked to school with a light, brisk step, just 5 more days. My communication with Qing Tian has been practically non-existent these past few days. I'm rarely home. I lock up the room I'm staying in before I leave. I don't want them seeing me pack my bags all the time. It's also to avoid having to sleep on the floor in his dad's room or share a room with him. He called me, and I brushed him off, saying I was at work. I said, "You haven't gotten into grad school in 3 years. If I don't go out and earn money, are we just supposed to sit at home and starve together?" He was silent for a few seconds. Just as I was about to hang up, he spoke. I knew it. You've always resented me for living off you. Fine, I just won't take the grad school entrance exam anymore. It was a threat that seems utterly ridiculous now. Yet, in my past life, it had me completely under its thumb. I know Qing Tian has a very strong sense of pride, so, every time a look of I knew it crossed his face with sadness, I would always be the first to comfort him. If he doesn't pass the exam this year, I'll encourage him to try again next year. He said spending my money made him feel guilty, so I told him what's mine is his, and what's his is mine, but he has nothing. My father, bedridden and paralyzed, and my stepsister, who made me give up my study abroad spot only to call me a bitch behind my back, and then there's him, that spineless, ungrateful, two-timing leech of a man. He probably thought I'd rush to explain myself, like I always do, insisting I wasn't blaming him. Then I transferred him the money and told him to spend it however he liked. But I didn't. I said, "Good that you know I mind. If you can't pass the exam, then don't bother. Go out and find a job sooner." With that, I hung up the phone. The passport photo I took for my visa application wasn't flattering, but to me, it carried a sense of exhilarating relief, like surviving a close call. On my way back, I ran into Qing Tian and Guqing. They had just stepped out of Lin Qiu's family-run hotel. Guqing was still holding on to Qing Tian's arm. They looked so intimate. I never realized the city was this big. Why, of all places, did they have to choose my daily route home for their secret rendezvous? Perhaps they thought I'd never find out, but more likely, they figured there was nothing I could do about it even if I did. After all, I loved Qing Tian with all my heart. How could I ever leave him? Watching their retreating figures, I couldn't help but let my mind wander. I thought to myself, it seems Qing Tian still has money after all. Otherwise, how could he manage when I haven't sent him his allowance in 10 days, and he still has the cash to get a hotel room? Of course, it's also possible that Guqing paid for it. The teachers at those art exam prep schools must make a pretty decent monthly income. Someone ran past me and gave me a hard shove. I heard a familiar voice call out "brother," and then join up with the 2 people ahead. I barely managed to keep my balance and avoid falling. Qingyue turned her head and shot me a fierce glare. Only then did Qing Tian and Guqing realize I was right behind them. I gave them a sidelong glance. Qing Tian was stunned for a few seconds before speaking up. "Xiao Ran, Teacher Gu twisted her ankle, so I'm just helping her." Their arms were still linked together. I couldn't be bothered to engage. I simply walked over to them and stopped in front of Qingyu. I stared fixedly at Qingyue. "You bumped into me and you don't even know how to apologize." Qingyue seemed not to have expected that I, who had always been submissive, would actually embarrass her in public. She stamped her foot hard. "Why on earth should I apologize to you? Who do you think you are?" I replied with a blank expression. "I'm the generous benefactor who pays for your food, your drinks, your clothes, and your entertainment. If I'm nothing, then what does that make you?" Qingyue, furious, complained to Qing Tian. "Brother, look at her attitude. When she insults me, she's essentially insulting you and our father. Qingyue had a habit of shifting the conflict between us, blowing it up to make it seem like I was dissatisfied with the entire Qing family. Sure enough, Qing Tian furrowed his brow. Ji Ran, how could you speak to Yaya like that? You should apologize to her. I raised an eyebrow slightly. She bumped into me. Why should I be the one to apologize? Qing Tian sighed, speaking with a self-righteous tone. Yaya is still young, just a child. Why do you always have to pick on her? People really do laugh when they're at a loss for words. Still a kid. Do you need me to show you my ID? Qing Yu is a year and 3 months older than me. Qing Tian opened his mouth, but for a moment, he couldn't find the words. Xiao Ran, you're always so overbearing. That's why Qing Tian never wants to tell you what's really on his mind. Guqing suddenly chimed in. So, you enjoy having heart-to-hearts in hotel rooms, is that it? I shifted my gaze to her face. If you like being a trash can, be my guest. I don't have that particular kink or the time for it. By now, quite a few people on the street had stopped in their tracks. They were pretending to be casual onlookers. Watching the four of us argue, Qing Tian was terrified of people gossiping about him. So he lowered his voice and said to me, Ji Ran, stop making a scene here. If you keep this up, I'm moving out. I shot back immediately. How about you move out tonight? Don't forget to take your dad with you. Upon hearing this, Qing Yu blurted out, you bitch. But before she could finish her tirade, Guqing stopped her. Truth be told, Guqing didn't like this ill-mannered stepsister of hers, Qing Tian, one bit. But her persona was that of the perfect, understanding older sister, the untouchable ideal in the eyes of both Qing Yu and Qing Tian. She knew perfectly well that Qing Yu's outburst was just her getting momentary revenge on me. But she was also afraid of what would happen if I really did kick them out. After all, Qing Tian still hadn't gotten his hands on my parents' inheritance, so I still had some use to them. Guqing coaxed the two Qing siblings away with soft, gentle words. Auntie Li, who runs the fruit shop by the street, called out to stop me. Xiao Ran, dear, I've watched you grow up since you were this high. I don't want to lie to you, so I might as well tell you today. Auntie Li's expression was hesitant, yet it seemed she had made up her mind about something. We see him here all the time, checking into rooms with that homewrecker. You need to wise up. What man could resist the advances of a temptress like Guqing? After saying this, Aunt Li shot a sharp look at her husband. I knew she meant well, so I gave her a smile. So everyone knew all along, I was the only one trapped in the cage I had built for myself. If I don't save myself, no one was going to reach out and pull me to safety. When I got home, Qing Tian, Qing Yue, and Guqing were all gathered in the small living room. Guqing's expression was one of disgust. I knew because the room reeked of the foul stench of excrement and urine. Now it was mixed with Guqing's perfume. It was enough to make you want to gag. However, Qing Tian and Qing Yue remained unfazed, perhaps even more than the foul smell. They were even less willing to care for a father who ate, drank, and relieved himself in bed. The moment Guqing saw me, she immediately confronted me sharply. Haven't you been taking proper care of Uncle Qing lately? I gave a mocking smile. Did his son die? My daughter is dead too. Since when is it my turn to take care of her? Qing Yue was a powder keg ready to blow. She lunged at me, ready to throw a punch. I saw a smug, gloating smile curl at the corner of Guqing's lips. What a shame, I was gone in a flash. Qing Yu, however, ran headlong into a clothes rack beside her. It was just a plastic hanger, not exactly sharp. Qing Yu sat on the floor clutching her head, moaning as if she were bleeding. Murder, murder. Qing Yu screamed. Qing Tian shoved me aside. My knee slammed hard into the corner of the wooden coffee table. The pain nearly made me cry out. Ji Ran, I never realized you could be such a vicious woman. Yaya is my sister, and you tried to kill her. Qing Tian's eyes were filled with nothing but condemnation. He completely forgot that it was Qing Yu who tried to hit me first. I just dodged. That's all. Seeing this, Guqing immediately poured fuel on the fire. Ji Ran, I didn't believe it when others said it before. I never thought you could be so vicious. And you even cursed the entire Qing Tian family to die. What man would ever dare to want a woman as terrifying as you? I sat on the sofa, rubbing my knee which was still throbbing with pain. I forced a smile. Qing Tian, don't you know he's practically begging to marry me? Qing Yu immediately forgot about the splitting headache she was supposed to be suffering. What an irresponsible actress. She jumped up to confront me. That's only because you were going to give the study abroad opportunity to me. My brother had no choice but to marry you. Do you really think my brother likes you? He's in love with Sister Qingqing. Guqing covered her mouth, stifling a giggle. Yeah, don't talk nonsense. Jiren will really get jealous in a moment. Seeing that Chingyue was fine after all that time, I finally breathed a sigh of relief. He didn't intend to argue with Chingyue. After all, it was all true, but he still said to me in a disappointed tone, Xiaoran. Just because you gave up your study abroad opportunity for Yaya doesn't mean you can act unreasonably. I already agreed to marry you. What more do you want? Yaya was always more suited to go abroad than you. You've never been overseas, and you don't have any friends there. How would you even communicate with foreigners? Being a housewife is what suits you best. I thought you understood that. So that's what he really thinks. I never imagined that's how he saw me. I don't have many friends because I'm always busy taking care of things at home. On top of that, I have a heavy academic workload. It's not like I never had the chance to go abroad. I was supposed to go on that graduation trip my classmates organized. He kept saying, if you leave, who's going to take care of Dad? And so, I was forced to stay. Yet, Chingyue spent my money gallivanting abroad with her classmates for half a month. As soon as she returned, she demanded I give up my study abroad opportunity for her. In my past life, it was as if the muck from a swamp had blinded my eyes. I was single-mindedly trying to win Qingtian's approval through constant sacrifice. I used to believe my life only had value if he was constantly fond of me. That's not true. Leaving him was the true beginning of my life. Seeing me silent all day, he mistook it for another victory of his, just like every victory before. So he never knows when to quit while he's ahead. He kept on nagging. I put up with this for days. Dad's room is a complete mess, and it's about time you cleaned it up. When we got back just now, Dad was still crying. Qingqing had a hard time getting him to finally fall asleep. Go and fetch some hot water to help Dad wash up. And then get started on dinner for us. Oh, and tonight you should probably sleep on the floor in Dad's room. It'll be easier to look after him. If it weren't for the fact that we're leaving here in just 5 days, I don't want to stir up any more trouble and risk complicating things. I should just slap him to shut him up right now. I took a deep breath, looking at the shameless, self-righteous expressions on all three of their faces. Your father needs care. You go take care of him. He requires 24-hour supervision. You can sleep in his room. If it comes to it, you could always move in with Guqing and Qingyu in his room. With every word I spoke, Qing Tian's expression grew darker. The four of you are one big happy family. Maybe stop dragging an outsider like me into it. The moment I finished speaking, Qing Tian latched onto my words like a lifeline, or perhaps, thinking he'd caught me in my own words, he immediately said, I knew you were jealous of Qingqing. How many times do I have to say it? Qingqing and I have been neighbors since we were kids. She's looked out for me a lot. When I go to see her, it's to learn from her. I couldn't even be bothered to roll my eyes. It was as if he couldn't even be bothered to come up with a halfway decent excuse. So, a computer science student like you spends every day studying with a music teacher, in a hotel room. No wonder you failed the grad school entrance exam for 3 years straight. Maybe you should find a gym teacher to tutor you in math next. With that, I took out my key and opened the door. He slipped into the room and locked the door before they could even react. Outside, Qingyue was so furious she started screaming curses. The racket woke up Qingtian's bedridden father in the next room, who was never one for peace and quiet anyway, and so, the two of them launched into a duet of shouting and swearing. I put on my noise-canceling headphones, as the world fell silent. I started thinking, maybe I should just find a hotel near the airport for a few days. In the faint light of dawn, I quietly opened the door and left with my luggage. I blocked the entire family's phone numbers. I spent 2 days lying in the hotel bed. It's been a long time since I felt this relaxed. Lin Qiu said she'd come to see me off. I sent her the hotel address, but I never expected that when I opened the door to let her in. 3 more people suddenly rushed out from around the corner of the staircase. Lin Qiu was even more shocked and panicked than I was. He hurriedly explained to me, I didn't bring them here. I patted her hand reassuringly, then looked at Qing Tian, who was gasping for breath. Did you follow Lin Qiu here? Qingyu snorted and said, I knew you were a scheming bitch. If I hadn't been smart enough to bring my brother and Qingqing along to follow that woman, you really would have gotten away. I genuinely didn't want to cause a scene with them in public, so, I pulled Lin Qiu into the room and tried to close the door. Qing Tian probably learned his lesson. He thrust his arm out, jamming it in the door just before it closed. I hesitated to go for the kill in that moment. Ji ran. What's the meaning of this? He confronted me. Take it however you want, bro. Don't waste your breath on her. Qingyue pushed her way in front of me, glaring at me fiercely. He said, you didn't submit the letter of commitment to voluntarily forfeit the state-sponsored study abroad opportunity, did you? I already went to the school and asked about it. Everyone else who's going abroad has already received their materials and is processing their visas. I nodded calmly and replied, that's right, I didn't submit it, so what, bro? See, I told you this bitch was never sincere. Qingyue was furious. Guqing stepped forward, Xiao ran. Didn't you promise to give the opportunity to Yaya? How can you go back on your word like that? I don't recall agreeing to that, I said coldly. I only agreed to marry you because you said you were willing to give the opportunity to Yaya. Qing Tian looked rather pathetic in that moment, yet he still tried to take the moral high ground and pressure me. Then let's call off the wedding, I replied without hesitation. The expressions of all three people before me changed. Then they stared at me in disbelief, because in the past, my only dream was to marry Qing Tian. They used this to hold it over me for my entire life. He simply refused to believe it, the reality that the woman who'd always followed him around had suddenly cast him aside. Don't say things you don't mean, Ji Ran. If you're willing to give the opportunity to Yaya and apologize to your father, I'd still be willing to marry you, as long as you promise to take good care of him from now on. I knew it was impossible to have a normal conversation with three lunatics, so I just told them to get out. If you don't leave right now, I'm calling security. Qingyu lunged at me, trying to claw my face, but Lin Qiu, who was behind me, seized the chance and shoved her, sending her stumbling. I'll be honest with you all, I'm leaving the country tomorrow. I might not ever come back. Get out of my house, now. If you don't, I'll have someone remove you. I figured it was best to just lay it all out for them, plain and simple. All three of them were stunned into silence. Qing Tian's mouth opened and closed several times, but no sound came out. Guqing was the first to snap out of it. In a tone of reproach and condescension, she said to me, what gives you the right to kick Qing Tian and his uncle out? You mean the fact that my name is on the property deed? The question was absurd. Guqing hadn't expected me to answer with such unflinching confidence. I tried to close the door on them once more. Qingyue shrieked, refusing to back down. Your wretched parents are the reason my father is paralyzed. How dare you, you bitch, have the nerve to throw us out. I couldn't stand it when people hurled such vile insults at my parents, but she kept on taunting. Do you know why, when my dad and your poor, doomed parents went out in the car, only my dad survived? It's because my dad's a survivor. Your parents had it coming. If my dad hadn't been driving for your parents, he never would have ended up paralyzed. Yes, Qing Tian's father is my parents' driver. Whenever my parents went out for business meetings, Qing Tian's father was the one who drove them. That day, they were out very late and hadn't come back. I just kept waiting and waiting. It wasn't until the morning of the third day that I got a call from the police. They told me my parents had been killed in a car accident. Qing Tian's father managed to pull through, but he'll be bedridden for the rest of his life. Qing Tian's father always says it was my parents arguing in the back seat of the car. He tried to intervene but didn't see the obstacle ahead, and then he crashed into it. So all these years, apart from my love for Qing Tian, and my own guilt, but then, Qingyu immediately said, you're just as ungrateful as your father and mother. My father only ever hoped you would marry my brother. After we got married, he insisted on handing over all his money to my brother, but your parents wouldn't hear of it. They even got into a huge argument with my dad. My dad just joked about us all going down together, and they actually tried to grab the steering wheel. That's what caused the accident that hurt my dad. My brother was such a good man. It's your family's insatiable greed that cut his life short. That was the first time I learned the truth about the car accident. The accident happened in a very remote area with no surveillance cameras. By the time Qing Tian's father regained consciousness, my parents had long since become two cold corpses. I believed every word he said. This time, with trembling hands, I mercilessly slammed the door shut. The pain made him pull his arm back all day. I shut the door, leaving his cries of pain and Qing's curses on the other side. I slumped to the floor, completely drained. Lin Qiu wrapped her arms around me. She wanted to comfort me, but was at a loss for words. All I wanted was to leave this place and cut all ties with Qing Tian and everyone else. But now, I'm going to make them all pay. I boarded the flight to the UK right on time, ready to start my new life, a new school, a new city, a new country. All of this fills me with immense excitement. But I haven't forgotten my vow to make the Qing Tian family pay. Qing Tian's father is far too old. Without evidence, it would be very difficult to put him behind bars, so I paid someone to come over while Qing Tian was out for the day. I had Qing Tian's father, bedding and all, thrown out of the house. They say he cried and made a scene at the door for a whole hour. Qing Tian only showed up much later, finally arriving from the hotel. His father was incontinent. A crowd had gathered around. They were pointing and whispering. all the while covering their noses. He's always trying to argue with the people I hired to evict them, but looking at their powerful builds, no one dared to step forward. Guqing tried to approach one of the men for help, but the man shoved her away. Guqing took a nasty spill, face first into the filth. He was covered from head to toe in the piss and shit left by Qingtian's father. He fled my house, screaming. All that remained were a stunned Qingtian and his father. Playing dead. In the end, Qingtian managed to drag his father away, practically hauling him off. Teacher Shen said that Qingtian had come to the school looking for her. He asked her if she knew exactly which university I had gone to abroad. She was worried that Qingtian would come and cause trouble for me. I said indifferently, as if he has the money to come to the UK to find me. Teacher Shen first smiled, then couldn't help but sigh. I truly never imagined that the Qingtian and Qingyue family were this kind of people. I shook my head. You can't judge a book by its cover. I lived with them for so many years and never saw it. Of course, I'm not the kind of good person who's satisfied with just kicking them out of the house. I had Lin Qiu find a few college students to distribute flyers at the institution where Guqing works. The flyers featured photos of Guqing's ongoing affair. They were taken by the private investigator I hired. The photos were accompanied by my tearful and impassioned accusations. A group of earnest university students learned of my plight. They not only helped me distribute flyers with great dedication, but they also made it a point to tell everyone about the unconscionable things the Qingtian family had done. For instance, how Qingtian's father caused the death of my parents and then evaded legal justice. How Qingtian repaid kindness with betrayal by carrying on an illicit affair with Guqing. How Qingyu lived off my generosity, eating my food and drinking my provisions, yet still hurled abuse at me, showing no gratitude whatsoever. She's a disgrace to the title of university student. Rumors spread like wildfire. Naturally, the parents of the students at the institution refused to let a teacher with such poor moral character continue teaching. Not long after, Guqing was subsequently dismissed by the institution as the controversy over his personal conduct grew, and all day long, after I stopped providing him with financial support, he could no longer comfortably prepare for the postgraduate entrance exam for the 4th time. Moreover, he hadn't worked a single day in the 3 years since graduation. With no work experience, he naturally hit a wall at every turn in his job search. He found a self-built house to stay in temporarily with his father. I received an email from him. In the email, he poured out a tearful confession. He said it's me he truly loves. Everything that happened before was because Guqing had led him astray. If I was willing, he could come to the UK to be my study companion. I immediately forwarded the email to Guqing. Having just lost his job, Guqing was absolutely livid when he read the letter, but they didn't break up. That's what Lin Qiu told me. However, Guqing issued Qingtian an ultimatum. If you still want to be with her, then kick out his bedridden father, whose health is failing. Guqing still wanted to be with Qingtian. Part of the reason was the sunk cost, and another part of it was because she was pregnant. Back then, Tiancheng moved out of the self-built house with his father and moved into Guqing's home. After learning the news of Guqing's pregnancy, I sincerely prayed for them. I hope that ungrateful wretch I gave birth to in my past life, in this life, I must be born from her womb. I hope he lives a life of misery. May their household be thrown into utter chaos. There was no chance in hell Guqing's mother would ever have a passionate late-life romance with Qingtian's father. Every time Qingtian's father had an incontinence accident at home, Guqing would beat him up. Rumor has it he even cried out to Qingtian in the middle of the night. I still want Ji-ran to be my daughter-in-law. Qingtian quietly wept in his father's arms, both of them overcome with grief. Then he started thinking about me. He thought about all those romance novels he'd read, month after month, one after another. It seemed like there might be a way to put it into practice, so he started emailing me again. One disgusting love letter after another flooded my inbox. Some were confessions, others were professions of love. I received one final email before I blocked him. He said he dreamed that I hadn't gone abroad. We got married without a hitch, and we were blessed with a lovely son. He finally got into graduate school. He moved away for work. I was at home, looking after his father and child. He said he was so happy in his dream. He missed me so much. I knew he didn't tell the rest of the dream. Later, he and Guqing became common-law husband and wife in a foreign land. He abandoned me at home. The child I raised came to regard Guqing as his mother. In the end, he even pushed me down the stairs, leaving me to die with a heart full of bitterness. But thankfully, in this life, it was all just a dream of his. It's no longer my life. I have personally changed my unfortunate life. I hope they torment each other until the day they die, Lin Qiu said. his father would rather get beaten every day than move out and live on his own. After all, he's someone who has to eat, drink, and relieve himself all in bed. The neighbors living right across from them could hear the heart-wrenching screams and shouts of their arguments every single day. As long as he's alive, his father simply couldn't manage on his own all day. Besides, I know he's in very robust health. I hope he lives to at least 90, just like he did in his last life. We'll have to live a long, long life to torment each other to the bitter end. As for Qingyue, I heard that after her failed attempt to go abroad, she just took any old job she could find. Within half a year, she was pregnant with the department manager's child, yet the manager and his wife's son was already 20 years old. She still had the gall to go to their home and provoke the manager's wife, demanding that the couple divorce to make way for her. In the end, she was shoved to the ground by the manager's son. She lost her child, and it felt like a part of her died too. She thought of Sister Guqing, who had always been so kind to her. So she went to her for help. Of course, she was turned away at the door. That was the very day Qing Tian landed a job as a project manager